Start the show with your calls and texts. How are you staying healthy this season? And how are you planning to protect your kids and family members in an unmasked, unvaxxed Maha America?
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then we'll check in with the Culture Show's Jared Bowen on the growing number of artists canceling their Kennedy Center appearances, Jared's take on the new Timothée Chalamet, ping pong sports movie, and more cultural news from across the region. It's all ahead, 11 o'clock hour at BPR and GBH and NEPM, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. U.S. officials say they've seized 2 tanker ships. One of them is an oil tanker that was bound for Venezuela. It was sailing under a Russian flag and had reached the North Atlantic Ocean between Iceland and Britain. NPR's Quill Lawrence reports U.S. forces chased the oil tanker for 2 weeks.
Before the raid that removed the Venezuelan president, a U.S. military pressure campaign included boarding ships that were skirting the American blockade of that country's oil. But one tanker, then called the Bella 1, refused to halt and led the U.S. Coast Guard on a chase thousands of miles across the Atlantic. On the way, it renamed itself and, more importantly, reflagged as a Russian ship. It may have been headed to a Russian port in the Arctic when U.S. forces boarded it. The Department of Homeland Security also announced it seized another tanker in the Caribbean, which is being taken to an American port. President Trump says the U.S. is going to take billions of dollars worth of oil from Venezuela. Quill Lawrence, NPR News.
President Trump and White House officials have been more vocal about the president's desire to obtain Greenland following the Venezuela raid. The Wall Street Journal reports earlier this week, Secretary of State Marco Rubio told U.S. lawmakers the administration's plan is to buy the island from Denmark. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said yesterday in a statement, the U.S. military is always an option at the president's disposal. Rufus Gifford is the former U.S. ambassador to Denmark. He says Greenland is different than Venezuela. He says using the U.S. military to take over Greenland would be a move against Denmark, a NATO ally, and against NATO's charter.
The premise of Article 5 is that if you attack one of us, you attack all of us. So the argument that we need Greenland for national security doesn't hold water.
Officials in Denmark and Greenland are seeking a meeting with Rubio. Hamas fighters say they have resumed the search for the final Israeli captive's body in Gaza. Israel says it won't move to the next phase of President Trump's peace plan until the body is returned. NPR's Anas Baba reports from Gaza City.
A spokesperson for Qatar, a key mediator in the ceasefire, told reporters Tuesday that talks still haven't started for phase 2 of the ceasefire, which came into effect 3 months ago. Meanwhile, Hamas fighters resumed the search of the lost Israeli body in eastern Gaza City Wednesday. President Trump had been pushing to move to the next phase of the deal, but has yet to announce members of a so-called Board of Peace that will oversee Gaza in the near term. Key to this next phase is the presence of an international stabilization force on the ground to maintain the ceasefire and separate Palestinians from Israeli troops, who still occupy more than half of Gaza. Azerbaijan's president recently appeared to rule out of his country's participation in the force, calling it a, quote, Arab affair. Anas Baba, NPR News, Gaza City.
You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Good morning from the GBH Newsroom in Boston. I'm Henry Santoro. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey sent a letter on Monday to U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., highlighting the impact that NIH funding cuts are having on clinical trials. Healey says Kennedy told her in October that no clinical trials had been disrupted by funding cuts and that he challenged her to show him evidence to the contrary. She says she did just that in her letter.
Data shows that hundreds of trials around the country have been stopped because they defunded NIH, and tens of thousands of patients have been impacted, and that includes trials in patients here in Massachusetts.
The letter cites a November article published in the journal JAMA International Medicine, which found 74,000 clinical study participants have been affected by NIH funding cuts. Healey says 18 clinical trials and 13,000 patients have been affected just in Massachusetts. She says disrupted trials include research on colorectal cancer, strokes, gestational diabetes, depression, pregnancy complications, and osteoporosis. Healey says she hopes Kennedy will respond by acting to restore the canceled funding. Residents of Southampton, Mass. filled a town hall meeting room on Monday night to sound off on a proposed solar panel cluster and battery energy storage system on farmland in town. Berkshire Eagle reports the meeting/debate is the latest in a number of solar developments being floated in communities throughout the region in recent months. 33 in Boston, 34 in Springfield. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation, celebrating 100 years of giving for good. More at mott.org/100. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
He's Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to BPR and GBH at any PM. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Thank you. Thank you. We are going to be joined by Andrea Joy Campbell, the Attorney General of the Commonwealth. The 13th of January, she'll be here at the library from 11 to noon. And Michelle Wu, the mayor of Boston, will be with us also here at the library January 20th from 12 to 1. Good morning, Jim.
Hey there, Marjorie. So it's peak flu season, and it's a bad one, as I'm sure you know. 4 children have died so far this year in Massachusetts, 2 under 2 years old. So we're opening phone and text lines at 877-301-8970. How are you keeping yourself and your family healthy through this season? Are you worried? Robert Kennedy's vaccine skepticism has permeated through our national health systems. New rules just out this week, I'm sure you know, for a number of childhood vaccinations fly in the face of scientific consensus, and obviously relevant to this discussion. Flu vaccine is one of those that is no longer universally recommended. Just about a third, I don't understand this at all, just about a third only of Massachusetts residents have gotten the flu shot this season, well below what is recommended for herd immunity. So the number at 877-301-8970, are you vaccinated? If you're part of the 2/3 who are not, why not? You're leaning more on homeopathic kind of remedies. What's getting you through this winter of sniffling, sore throats, serious illness? Are you worried this season is a preview of an unmasked future for America under the brainworm in chief? The number is 877-301-8970. Do you have a flu shot?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so explain to me why 66% of the people in Massachusetts are not. And I understand, let's assume 35% of you understand, because if you're a MAGA or MAHA adherent, whatever Kennedy and Trump tell you to do, doesn't matter how damaging your health is, you do it. Why are the other 30% not vaccinated?
I think people think wrongly they're not going to get that sick from the flu. I mean, I didn't get a flu shot for years, and then I did get really sick from the flu, about 15 or 20 years ago, and I thought, this is really stupid. I should get a flu shot. I used to hear this all the time. Oh, don't get the flu shot because the flu shot's going to make you sick with the flu. And then I got caught and got really, really sick. But to me, this is all about, what are you supposed to do? You know, you used to have kind of these very specific set of rules, and I get sometimes with the vaccines, why young parents, I mean, I remember this when my first kid was born. I was a little nervous. It's a little teeny tiny baby. They're going to shoot her full of all these vaccines. Can't we wait a little bit? But they don't want you to wait because they're afraid that you won't come back and you won't get it done.
Kennedy wants you to wait.
Kennedy wants you to wait.
People who believe in science do not want you to wait.
Well, I think he's sowed a lot of confusion. So I'm interested in what young parents or people that are involved with children, how they're navigating this whole thing about vaccines. I mean, the flu thing, I was telling you before the show, I walked by this urgent care center in Coolidge Corner in Brookline yesterday. The place was packed. And this is like at 7:30 at night. Everybody had masks on. Mass General wants everybody to wear masks there because they're worried about the flu. You know, I think, where are my masks? Did I save my COVID mask from last time? There's just, to me, this kind of upset feeling of uncertainty about vaccines, people beginning to stop thinking they have an obligation to get things like a flu shot so they can help other people, not get the flu.
Who do you know in your world who thinks that Robert Kennedy knows anything about anything relating to health? Let's focus on vaccines.
Well,
who has caused uncertainty because he's an anti-vaxxer?
He has caused uncertainty. It made it even worse. Well, it's not just that he's causing uncertainty. He's changing the rules so that if you were on that, MAHA is a big group of people. These are these Make America Healthy Again. There are a lot of these mothers that don't like the fact that their kids are going to get vaccines, that they think that they're, more crunchy granola types, or they think that the vaccine is going to make them sick.
Because they don't believe in science. I mean, that's this era. You don't have to believe in science anymore. You can believe in the rhetoric of charismatic leaders. I mean, by the way, you saw this. All the CDC scientists were blindsided. They had no idea that this thing was coming. And you know what the two authors of the report that was confirmed by the Vaccine Advisory Council, you know what they're famous for? For being COVID anti-vaxxers. And you know what's amazing about this? And we're going to get to your calls in a minute. We said this before, but if I were to say to you, Marjorie, name me the greatest success of the first Trump administration. Warp speed.
Warp speed. Getting
COVID
the
vaccine. And the guy picks a head of HHS whose calling card is he is trying to undermine confidence in arguably one of the greatest medical advances of our lifetimes, vaccinations.
So there's this new flu strain that's out now that is it's not the exact one that your vaccine is aimed at, but it will still supposedly keep you from getting very, very sick. So it still has an impact. But some of these statistics from the Globe about Massachusetts are incredible. 126% increase in confirmed flu cases. 126% increase. 135% increase in emergency room visits. So you want to try to stay out of the emergency room if you can at this particular moment. And that there's hospitalizations among children under 5 has increased 150% in the last 2 weeks. Now, the kids that get really sick from the flu generally are kids with some kind of underlying health issue.
Not always.
Like asthma, but asthma is very common. And also, we don't know for sure, because you don't know the details of the 4 children who died, whether they had underlying conditions or whether they were healthy kids who just got a very bad strain of flu and got very, very sick. So I'm just kind of nervous, I guess, about what you're supposed to do, what the confusion people might have, and the fact that we seem not to be concerned about helping out our neighbors by getting vaccinated. 877-301-8970. Marjorie from Bowen, thank you for calling.
Hey there.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good. I reluctantly got the flu shot.
Why reluctantly?
Well, I went to the doctor for an appointment, and he talked me into it. Generally, I get pretty sick after any kind of vaccine, but he reminded me that I'm a diabetic and that I really needed the shot, so I got the flu shot and the COVID shot, and the first time I didn't get any
side effects. Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, Marjorie, a lot of the people that are texting, thank you for the call, are saying the same thing, that they it was their doctor.
Not everybody has a doctor.
Not everybody has
and
a doctor.
Low and moderate income people that have greatest illness issues don't have doctors or PCPs anyway.
A texter says, my spouse did not get vaccinated. He came down with the flu. He had to take Tylenol. So far, no autism, thank God, because, of course, RFK Jr. Thinks that Tylenol causes autism. 877-301-8970. You're supposed to get a flu shot, by the way, for babies when they're 6 months old. As soon as they can get them, that's when they can get the COVID shot, too. But I think a lot of people don't like to do that, and they are hesitating.
When you say a lot of people don't like to do it, does the average parent decide, since even though I didn't go to medical school, I'm going to make all the health decisions? I don't mean decisions after you consult with a medical professional, and then you obviously have to make choices if they're given to you. Who are we to be deciding when there's a body? And by the way, wait, let me just say this on this issue. I did a lot of reading after the latest insanity from Kennedy and his sycophants on this advisory council. Here is the pile, if you're watching on streaming, of scientific evidence that says he's wrong. Here is the pile that says he's right.
I know.
The only people who are, it's not like a 50-50 or 60-40. It's anti-vax lunatics who support this crap. It's ridiculous.
Haven't you heard what people say when they don't get the vaccine?
What?
I've done my own research.
Yeah.
I love that. Most of us did not go to school for infectious disease information. But most of us don't have the ability to do their own research and figure these things out. But I tell you what happens. I said, I remember thinking this when my kids were little and hearing this from other mothers. It makes you scared because you go in and you have to sign a form and it says 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 20,000 might have an adverse effect from this vaccine, a very bad adverse effect from that vaccine. So you're thinking to yourself, my little tiny newborn baby, am I going to be the 1 in 10,000? And you're nervous. And oftentimes, as young parents know, your kid does get kind of a little bit of a fever from an MMR vaccine or something. The kids, 9,999 are fine, but it does make you nervous when your kid does get that little fever and you're sitting there watching hysterically because this is a brand new baby and you're nervous about it. So that's, I think, part of what goes on.
You sound like you just had an affair with RFK Jr. I mean, what?
Well, call me Olivia Nuzzi.
877-301-8970.
By the way,
oh, yeah,
I know you
shouldn't have said
I know
this.
you think this is ridiculous, but if people haven't seen this, they should look at the saucy, almost pornographic text messages that RFK Jr. sent to Olivia Nuzzi.
Who's a journalist, by the way.
Who's a journalist, by the way. She's in big trouble because she was having affairs with the people she was writing stories about. But really over the top. No problem. Nobody cares. The guy's got a worm in his head. He's sending these really bizarre texts to, and he's a married guy, to this woman that is a journalist that get, in writing he's got this stuff. And nobody seems to think that well, some of us do anyway, but he's running healthcare in the United States of America.
Oh, I wasn't bothered with his performance at all until that.
Yeah, well, you didn't want to comment about the text, Jim. You thought you thought we shouldn't mention the text.
No, I thought you should mention the text, not me. Peter and Quincy, hello.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Marjorie. How you doing?
Hi. Good.
Me and my I live with my father-in-law right now while my house is getting renovated. But he's a big MAGA type, big Trump supporter. Every single time, the vaccine season comes around, he is like, "Oh, I'm not taking the vaccine. I know all this thing's coming out." And the second he sees his doctor, he's first in line whenever the vaccines come out.
Wait a minute. He does get the vaccine, or he doesn't get the vaccine? I missed that, Peter. He does.
He's first in line whenever he gets to get the vaccine.
Well, he's second in line because he's right behind me, Peter. Let me tell you, I'm there as soon as they say you can do it. Thank you for the call. Here are a couple of people responding to why 66% of the people in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And these aren't hard. John and Natick, I haven't gotten flu or COVID shots this year. I'm anxious to, but between working and parenting a 4- and 7-year-old, I have a spouse, haven't managed to prioritize getting to a CVS. It's on the list, though, facepalm, whatever. And anonymous text, the same thing. Truthfully, I've just been busy, lazy, haven't gotten to the shot. However, my 3-year-old and 2-year-old both got the flu shot. Let me tell you, someone who got my shots at Walgreens, it takes a grand total of like 7 minutes. You get in there, you sign the form that you probably pre-registered with online, you get the shot and you leave. I
just went in. I didn't even register. I just walked in.
Wow.
I know.
That's
bold as brass.
incredible.
And they're really good at it. I mean, when I've gotten these shots, I don't even feel them. And I don't feel bad afterwards. These people
great.
at CVS
Well, you were
very
upset when
skilled.
you got the COVID shots that you weren't feeling muscle pain.
Well, remember back in the day, we were all hysterical about getting our COVID vaccine. At least I was hysterical. And I was one of the people that went down to Gillette Stadium. Did you go to Gillette Stadium?
I did. First time.
I went to Gillette Stadium. It was really bizarre. You sit in the parking lot. They wait till they call your number. Then you fly and you go up like 19 escalators.
That's true.
And you're in this huge stadium.
And you can see the field,
50-yard line.
Great,
it was really cool. But then I was expecting something to happen. I get the shot. I didn't didn't hurt. I was waiting to get sick. And I was so paranoid at the time that I thought, I wonder if this nurse could have sold my shot to somebody in the parking lot, and I didn't get it. I was really wondering why I didn't get sick. But anyway, I didn't get sick. Kate from New Hampshire, thank you for calling.
Hello, Kate.
Hi, guys. Love the show. Thanks for the call.
Hi.
I wanted to mention that something I feel this year, as some of the other callers mentioned about being busy with young kids, is just that there's not as much community promotion, it seems. And I think that could be because of RFK's policies, that there's no community clinics that I've seen. There's just not that same level of promotion going on to make sure you get your flu or COVID shot. And that actually, I'm similar to the other callers. I've gotten mine, but I haven't brought the kids yet. And so I got to get on that. But I think in the past, it's just been very well promoted, and especially at that community level.
You know, Kate, I wish we had said what you said. It's not, that's a very important point. It's not just the skepticism caused by Kennedy's know-nothingism on this and all of his allies. It's they're not affirmative, there are some. They're not the same level of public education about the importance of the shot, the timing of it. That's a really, really good point. And Kate, thanks for making it. Take your kids soon.
One of the texters says that he's rushing to get the vaccine so I don't get a worm in my head. That's a good one. But we have several people. Here's a couple of them. My father died from the side effects of a flu shot. No thanks, says Raman Wister. The reason people are skeptical of vaccines now is because the CDC lied about the COVID vaccine.
I read that. What lie did they tell
lie?
exactly?
Yeah, call back. What was the lie? I mean, there was a misunderstanding that the COVID vaccine would prevent you from getting COVID. Nobody ever said that. It would just mean you would be less likely to be hospitalized and in serious trouble if you did get it. So text back the person who ever texted and tell us what the lie was.
Well, also, as a percentage, did more people die from COVID or did they die from the COVID vaccine? I mean, the answer is
the people who died from COVID were nearly all people who were unvaccinated.
I know that.
Yeah, I know.
But it's not even, it's not even a close question. There are obviously individual stories like that. You know, by the way, if my father, well, not my father because I didn't give a damn, but I mean, if my mother had died from COVID, I might have had the same hesitancy that texter just did. But he's an outlier. Most people's parents or loved ones are not dying or even getting sick from this stuff.
Well, that was part of me. My mother always gets sick from flu shots, so she stopped taking them. That's why I stopped taking them until I was so sick from the flu. I got really sick from the flu. Sarah at North Reading says, the science hasn't changed, the politics have. And that's a very good point. Here's a texter who says, Marjorie, I don't understand your confusion on what to do regarding the flu vaccine. Simply do the opposite of whatever RFK Jr. says, and you'll be fine.
Well, by the way, there's a press thing happening right now at the White House in the press room. Carolyn Levitt, who is chairing this thing, one of the people who's going to speak is Kennedy. And I assume he's going to do some crap about vaccines to discourage people to do this, how it's getting people. You know, I don't mean to beat a living horse, but you and I have interviewed Kennedy, and I interviewed a number of times on Greater Boston about environmental stuff where he was fabulous, by the way. Great, really good environmental lawyer. Just like I say that the American people and politicians are unwilling to discuss the mental health of the President of the United States as they should. Do you think this guy is sane? He's
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.?
He's too smart to be spouting this crap.
No.
I mean,
I think
he is gone. He's another one who is gone.
Okay.
And for some reason, we don't talk about that. What?
The texter texted back and said, Rachel Maddow said if you get the shot, you will not get COVID. I am not aware of that, but we sent
Well, she's also head of the CDC, isn't she? When she's not at MS now, she's...
And the Biden administration, this is not true. I know this is not true. The Biden administration said if you get the COVID vaccine, you couldn't get the virus or transmit the virus. That's not true either. I think there was an assumption. I think at the beginning when
Don't erase that. I want to read this. I'm sorry. You keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I want to read the last line you didn't read. Read the last line.
Oh, Jim, this is aimed at you from the texter. You got the vaccine and all the boosters, and you still got COVID 5 times. So
my answer is, first of all, you're wrong. I got it 6 times. So as far as I know. Number one, texter, another person who will not call. How many times did I go to the hospital, texter? That's right, 0. How many times was I seriously, by the way, every time I had COVID, you know what I did? This radio show from a bedroom in my house because I felt okay. I was a little queasy kind of thing. And you know why I didn't go to the hospital? It's because I got from the Red Room. That's right.
That's right.
Because I got the damn shot.
Yeah. I think there was a lot of confusion, and maybe there was poor messaging, but it was not going to keep you from getting COVID.
The only messaging, you know, by the way, the guy who was the COVID guy at the end of Biden, former dean of Brown School of Public Health, Ashish Jha, was with us and has admitted they made some mistakes. But as Fauci has admitted too, obviously we learned as we went along. There was no intentional misinformation given out from the CDC or Fauci or Jha. And the vast majority of information, as you said, didn't say you're going to be 100% fine, but you're less likely to go to the hospital and you're far less likely to die.
Well, I think one of the problems is, and there was the Globe story today was about the Brown University, the man who killed all those, the 2 people and injured so many down at Brown University.
And killed the guy
was
in
talking about one of the big problems was the
Cambridge.
conspiracy theories and the misinformation and the crazy stuff that went out online right after the shooting, which really caused a lot of problems for investigators, and they were chasing all these bogus leads and stuff. I think the same thing happened with COVID. All this stuff was like online, and I think people thought because it was online, it was it's a check the source kind of deal. Anyway, Cheryl Lenora wants to know when President Trump and RFK will commemorate the hundreds of thousands of people who died from COVID.
Well, yeah, the only page, I don't know if you recall,
millions,
Joe Biden did that, 1 million,
Yeah.
a little more of 1 million. Joe Biden did, and the fact that we never do, again, in light of the fact that Trump's one success in the first term was warp speed development of this life-saving vaccine. I agree. I mean, I agree. And by the way, I've given up on this argument. I think Trump's what?
I think we have someone on the phone about your vaccines.
Oh, great. Hi, Greg. Are you the guy who said it was 5 times?
Yep.
Hi, thanks for texting.
Yep, it's me.
And by the way, I want to compliment you. Every time we talk to somebody who's critical and say you should call, they never do. So good for you, Greg. Take it away.
I was trying to call in before I sent the text anyway.
Thank you. Go.
Anyway, the Biden administration said that. Yeah, Rachel Maddow did too. But Joe Biden himself literally in some press conference said, if you get the shot, you cannot get the virus and you won't transmit the virus. Literally said it. Don't tell me I don't remember it. I don't have the date of it. Said it, all right? You guys are crazy. All fucking nuts.
Thank you, Greg. Well, that'll be your last call.
Oh, my goodness.
I hope we got that, but Greg dropped an F-bomb in the middle of that. You know, in all,
He's angry. He's angry.
Let's assume, for argument's sake, let's give Greg his due, even though he doesn't deserve it. Let's say Biden did say it once. I have no idea if he did say it. There was a tsunami of information from Washington during COVID. And if that was incorrect, the vast majority of information made very clear what the benefits of the COVID vaccine were, what it would not do. And that's the reality. And we'll also check Rachel Maddow to make you happy, Greg.
Okay.
And by the way, Greg, don't effing call again, okay? Thank you very much.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. We're going to talk more about this, taking calls and texts at 877-301-8970. This is BPR and GBH and NEPM.
If you're old enough, you'll remember the video rental shop. They were everywhere. In France, a handful of them are still open, VHS tapes included, and they're offering more than just nostalgia.
It's like a library, and it's very exciting to come in and try to make a decision. And so much more curated than Netflix.
Hear that story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Babson College, where you can advance your career with an MBA or specialized master's at the school ranked number 2 best college in the United States by the Wall Street Journal 2025. Babson.edu/grad programs. And Boston Ski and Tennis, helping families stay active and outdoors this winter, offering a range of winter sport products and services with locations in Newton and Westboro or online at bostonskiandtennis.com.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy live from the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're talking about flu, a pretty bad season of flu. 60-some% in Massachusetts have not gotten a flu shot. Greg just called in a minute ago. And by the way, when I said to him at the end, don't call again, I didn't mean don't call again because we disagreed. Dropping F-bombs on the show and yelling at us is not something we tolerate. We don't do it to you. We expect you not to do it to us. However, our team did check, and Greg was in part correct. There's a CNN fact check from a July 2021 town hall with Joe Biden. He made 3 representations. Two of them were incorrect. Two said you're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations. In the middle, in the same town hall, that he said even if vaccinated people do catch the virus, they're not likely to get sick. So 2 out of the 3 representations that day were incorrect. But Greg, I would suggest to you, without dropping the F-bomb on us, that there were hundreds of thousands of other representations out of people in the Biden administration, the overwhelming majority that were spot on. Don in Rhode Island, you're next on BPR. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi, guys. Love the show.
Thanks.
I wanted to, so my wife is a liver transplant patient, and she currently has the flu A. Now, she got the liver at Mass General. It's a miracle that such a thing is possible.
It
And
is.
only through the research and science that, I thank God every day. So she got the flu. I haven't got the flu. We were both vaccinated. Of course, because of her condition, she's immunocompromised. So it would make sense that she would be more susceptible. But the key is we both got on Tamiflu right away. We were at the doctor's yesterday. It's been about close to a week, but she's on the mend. But I think it points out that there are people in our population that are vulnerable. And that's a significant, it's important that people are vaccinated and we can reduce the number of infected people that are moving about the population.
I'm so glad you called, Don, because that's the biggest thing is that some people, because they are immunocompromised, can't get. Your wife was able to get the flu vaccine, which is great, and obviously the liver transplant is miraculous. But there are many people who can't get vaccines. Some school kids can't get vaccines, and that's one of the scariest things. That if a immunocompromised person comes down with the measles, which is a tough disease, or mumps, or these things that are tough diseases, because they have an immunocompromised system, they could get really, really sick. And that's why I think it's a terrible thing that Massachusetts allows a religious exemption for vaccinations. If you don't want to vaccinate your children, I don't think you should be allowed to risk the lives of children who might be immunocompromised in a class of 25 kids.
Hey, Don, how well is your wife tolerating the liver?
Yeah, Jim, it's been 6 years, and it's just amazing. And there's so many people that, are on the list, and it's just, we are so grateful to the people at Mass General. And if I could, I was a science teacher for 36 years, and I think the problem is that people just don't understand science. I heard Marjorie say a few minutes ago about people that say, I've done my own research.
I know.
Which just means that you Googled things until you found stuff that supports your argument.
I do that, by the way, Don. I must admit, I do that.
Well, it's like when you go
hey, Don, good luck to your wife, and we're really glad you called. Thank you.
If you have something, you have a headache, or you go on one of those WebMD things, you start Googling, before you know it, it always winds up the same place. You have a brain tumor, and you're going to be dead in 10 minutes.
Emily from Ipswich actually has the response to Greg that we should have mentioned. Well, yes, Joe Biden in that one particular town hall gave incorrect advice twice. She said Trump told people to drink bleach. That's all.
Yeah.
Which is do you remember that? What was her name? Deborah.
But in fairness, Jim, I think if you were paying attention during that time and listening to the information that came out, and there were mistakes, as you said at the beginning, a lot of mistakes because the virus was brand new, you would know that the point of the vaccine was not that you would never get it or never get sick, but that it was going to lessen the degree of sickness.
And let me continue that thought for a second. Let's assume, Joe Biden gave incorrect representations twice. What is the harm of that in terms of getting the vaccine? Yes, it is true that, yes, you can still get COVID, as I did 6 times, but you benefit from getting the vaccine, even if the representation in those cases was not accurate,
Karen on the car, thank you for calling.
Hello, Karen.
Oh, thank you so much for taking my call. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Is that my echo or yours?
It's ours.
This
sorry.
is going to put me in my grave,
Yeah.
let me tell you. Karen, I'm really sorry.
I can
really
get
sorry.
past it.
I know
It's
you can.
okay. I can
Thank
get
you.
past it.
Our apologies.
We only
I
have
just
about a
wanted to
minute too,
comment.
Karen. I'm sorry.
Okay. I haven't had a flu shot since I was 12 years old. It's the only one I've ever had in my life. I'm 72 years old now. And the reason I don't get it is because that flu shot almost killed me. I had the flu shot. By dinner time, I was in a full-blown asthma attack, which led to pneumonia, which led to a hole in my lung the size of a quarter.
Oh.
Hey,
Okay,
Karen, can
turns
I just want to ask you, in the intervening 50 plus years, have you ever asked your physician as to whether or not you should return to getting flu shots or no?
Well, I'll tell you, up until this year, none of them wanted to believe that I had an allergy to the vaccine. There's some kind of egg component in the vaccine, and I'm allergic to it. And that's what caused the problem. So it's just this past year that my medical people have started to believe me.
Got it,
No,
Karen.
they don't.
We understand.
We got to
Got
we got to go around town. But there are people. I mean, as I talked about, you could be the 1 in 10,000. There are people who can't take these vaccines, but the overwhelming majority can, and they are important. Anyway.
By the way, you didn't see the note. Jared is stuck on the T. He's going to be a little bit late, so we're going to continue with your calls.
Oh, we are? Okay.
On this issue for just a few more minutes till Jared arrives.
Okay, we'll be right back. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, movie maven Joyce Kulhaywick joins us to raise a curtain on this year's likely Oscar contenders. Plus, Salem's inaugural poet laureate, J.D. Scrimgeour, on writing about the other Salem, the daily lived-in city beyond witch trial lore and Halloween tourism. As part of the Salem 400 anniversary celebrations, he's written a new collection of poetry to meet the moment. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And American Repertory Theater with Wonder, a new musical for the whole family based on the best-selling book and beloved movie. Wonder celebrates the power of choosing kindness. Tickets at amrep.org. And CrowdStreet, a platform providing individual investors direct access to private equity, private credit, and real estate. Learn more at crowdstreet.com.
Welcome back to BPR. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library. Jared Bowen's supposed to be here. He will be here. He's stuck on the T. It's delayed. He'll be here in a couple of minutes. And during that time, while we're waiting for Jared, we'll continue to take your calls about the flu problem that we're currently having, which is much more serious than it's been in recent years. We're talking about that, why 2/3 of people in Massachusetts have not gotten a shot. And we're also talking about the anti-scientific guidance coming from Kennedy and his minions.
Here's a text from a person who describes themselves as a medical professional. It's important to differentiate between a vaccine response versus a vaccine reaction. If you feel sick or get a fever after a vaccine, that means your immune system is doing what it's supposed to do. It's appropriate vaccine response. A reaction is when you break out with hives or become hypersensitive or develop a rash or something serious like that. Vaccine reactions are very rare. While I'm on the subject as a medical professional, I tell people that their Google research is not research.
Okay, we're going to take one more call. Jared just walked in. Bill from Chelmsford, you are next. Welcome to the show. Hi, Bill.
Good morning, Marjorie. Good morning, Jim.
Hey there. How are you?
A couple of quick points.
Please.
I'm good. How are you?
Very well,
I'm
thanks.
fascinated that so many people complain about the flu vaccines and that they're relating it back to the pandemic when they wanted the medical and science community to solve one of the most complex medical diseases in the past 100 years and have it 100% right. And I relate it to my career, 35 years in the fire service.
Oh, wow.
We would pull up to a scene, and our initial attack would be it's a fire. Then quickly we'd find out there were human beings in the property, as well as possibly hazardous materials. And even in the case of a couple of that I experienced, there were crimes committed. So we take a very simple call. It becomes very complex. And how we go at it, it grows. And I guarantee you, every single one of them, when we reviewed them, we would go over it with the people that responded, and we would find mistakes. You can always find a mistake. But to attack the system because of mistakes that were made is just never, ever a good thing to do. And I find it very disheartening. And I think the Trump administration wants us to be fearful of government, fearful of science, so that they can control more people.
Bill, that was
a great call.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
35 years as
I
a
mean,
firefighter.
he's right, and you mentioned this earlier that there were a lot of mistakes made at the beginning and misunderstandings made at the beginning when we first got COVID because people didn't know much of anything about it. But it was miraculous how fast we get the vaccine, and it's an mRNA vaccines, a lot of them, and Kennedy has shut down research on a lot of mRNA vaccines.
Sure, why not?
Which is kind of too bad. Anyway,
In any case, Jared
he
is
showed
joining
up
us.
better
He
late
is-
than never.
he's
He was
executive
stuck
board-
on the tee.
He's executive. Can I say who you are? You don't want to? Do you care?
Well, can I
sure,
put in
go
some
ahead.
requests for the general manager of the MBTA
Oh,
next
no,
time
tell
you
us
have him on?
what happened?
Where
I
were
have
you
some
stuck?
feedback.
This is Jared Bowen, by the way.
Where were you stuck?
I was stuck on the orange line,
Oh,
actually, and
yeah.
with garbled communication, so I had no idea what was happening. So
Oh.
I ran off the train, ran over to the green line. So,
Yeah, that's the worst. They need to tell you how long they think you're going to be stuck for.
well, yeah, I didn't realize it was about at least 10 minutes or more.
You have
Had
rain
to
on
have been
your
more.
nose. Do you know that?
I have what?
Rain on your nose.
I have rain on my nose.
You
It
do.
is raining outside.
So you had to.
Anyway.
Good thing you're a jogger. You ran or runner, I should
Exactly.
say. You ran from the station to here.
Get my little exercise in, all my steps.
So orange line, that's a long way.
Well, then I ran over to the green line.
Oh, you ran over the green line. Okay. All right. Okay. The
Okay,
green
well,
line
that was
got
an
you here.
interesting discussion.
Wasn't it fascinating?
Okay,
now you can say who I am.
Can we? Well, I'm not going to. Too late. It's Jared Bowen. We know who he is. We know who he is. And by the way, if you're any PMers out there, this part I will say, you can get your dose of Jared in addition to this. Saturdays at 7 p.m. on 88.5 NEPM. So there you go.
So tell us what's going on at the Kennedy Center. There have been more and more people who are not going to go to the Kennedy Center and perform there. What's the deal?
Well, it's important to say, as you just said, that it's the Kennedy Center, because even Congress, when they recently passed the budget, called it the Kennedy Center,
Really?
because it
That-
takes a congressional act to call it anything but the Kennedy
Bold
Center.
move.
So even if the president puts his name up there, it's still just the John F. Kennedy Center for the performing arts. So we see, because the president has put his name up there, a whole host of people have canceled. On New Year's Eve, there were some concerts that were scheduled to happen. They have pulled out. Stephen Schwartz was to host a big gala for the Washington National Opera in May. Stephen Schwartz is a very significant legend of theater, of course, the composer of Wicked and Pippin and so many others. He has pulled out. The Kennedy Center is saying that this is the liberal left, which is just coming home to try to pull business out of the Kennedy Center. But you see a host of people now recognizing that there isn't even an opportunity to protest there, that it's probably just better to pull out.
Yeah. Okay.
And we should point out, we didn't talk about this over the break because we all went on break, but the Kennedy Center honors happened. We remember what the president said about how huge his ratings were going to be, and if he didn't best Jimmy Kimmel in talent, that he shouldn't be president anymore. The ratings were down 35% from 2024.
Great.
I didn't know that.
Great.
So is he still president or not?
He's still president.
He
Yeah.
is still president.
You know, I remember switching the channels that night and seeing him up there in his tuxedo, and I thought, oh my God, I can't even watch it.
Yeah, so for the few people who did watch, because again, down 35%, he was the first time a president has ever hosted the Kennedy Center honors, so he was making quite a big deal over what he was going to draw in terms of ratings.
You know, one thing I'm curious to know if either of you know, I just thought of this as you're speaking. One of the people who apparently voted from the board appointed by Trump to add Trump's name is, I think her name is Bloomberg, is that her name? I'm not sure.
Kraft's wife?
Kraft's wife,
Yeah.
but we should know her name, and I'm sorry, I just forgot. I think it's Dr. Bloomberg. Has anyone interviewed the doctor?
Not that I've seen.
What was the basis of her decision? My favorite part, I've said this before, but I don't want to repeat it. One of the Kennedy women, I forget who it was, said that right the day after it happened, she can't wait till 3 years and X number of weeks from now.
Oh, yeah.
When she gets on a ladder, climbs up with a chisel, and knocks those Donald J. Trump letters off the face of that thing.
So Jared Bowen.
Dr. Dana Bloomberg is Robert Kraft's wife's name.
This was a horrible tragedy. A man with mental illness problems apparently targeted John Axelrod, a philanthropist and well-known art collector in town, and ran over him and his dog, allegedly, I should say. But
do you know him?
It's really strange. For the impact that he had in the arts and at the Museum of Fine Arts, we never crossed paths.
Hundreds of contributions to the MFA, hundreds.
Some 900 pieces. This is a man who had an extraordinary impact on the arts. He was an amazing philanthropist going back into the 1980s. And he's so significant because museums are great at their jobs, but they're not always great at identifying what the art of the moment is. And that's a tough job. When you think of all of the artists out there, you can't predict history. You don't know what movements are really going to be lasting. For instance, you don't necessarily know that Warhol will go on to be the enduring artist he is. But John Axelrod had this skill. So back in the 1980s, he was collecting black artists and Latin artists way before anybody else was. And then he gifted a lot of his collection to the Museum of Fine Arts. So it is now the foundation of their collection for black artists. So many people like Buford Delaney, who is a blue chip artist and would be so expensive to get at auction or to buy through a gallery, they have that gift because of John Axelrod. So he was really a game changer for the Museum of Fine Arts. There's an entire gallery named after him in the Art of the Americas wing, because in addition to paintings and particular movements and sectors of society that he collected, he was also huge into collecting decorative arts, especially Art Deco. So he loved the 20s and 30s and the jazz era. And so he was very formative in the MFA's collection and other museums as well.
Did you mention that the guy who was accused of running him over intentionally, is the word they keep using, the authorities, also killed his dog?
Killed his dog.
And one of the, I have to say, the Globe did some beautiful stories about his relationship to the neighborhood and other people who
He lived on Marlborough Street for years, and he was killed on the Commonwealth Avenue Mall out here.
And people who knew nothing of his philanthropy or his wealth or his connection to the art world talked about this guy's kindness. And, everybody knew his name. There was this dog store, I can't think of what it's called, I think on Newbury Street or something, that made a particular dog jerky kind of thing that he would give out to people. I mean, it's just the sweetest, most humane kind of behavior from this guy that did such great things in the art world.
I talked to the MFA about this morning in preparation for this segment, and they were telling me about his intellectual rigor, too. If you were to go to his apartment, which was like a museum, because if you can imagine the gifts that he gifted to the Museum of Fine Arts that are now hanging in their galleries, of course his home was a museum, but he would test people who came through. He would ask them about the art. He would ask them about process. He would ask about materials. And as the MFA pointed out to me, if you didn't know them that day, you were expected to know the answers when you came back. So there was this great conversation that he tried to foster around the arts, too. By the way, if people don't know this story, it's a horrible one where apparently this person asked for his whereabouts just by describing him and his dog, and then drove onto the Commonwealth Avenue Mall. Drove off the road onto the mall.
Yeah, and there was another woman walking with him with her dog, and he targeted Axelrod and his dog. I mean, you saw the pictures of this man in court. It didn't look.
Well, the court shrink said that he didn't even understand. Yeah. I'm not defending his. Obviously,
but you don't know if there was some previous history here, or there was something.
Or he thought it was somebody else.
Or they had he had a run-in with a dog. We just don't know.
It's just such a shame because really there are few people who can have such a singular impact like that. And they pointed out to me too, he also was collecting graffiti art. I mean, everywhere where maybe museums weren't looking at the right time, he was looking and amassed these collections.
And he was amassing these collections before they became multi-million-dollar collections.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so he could do it for less money, obviously.
Okay, let's go to current art stuff. I must admit, I am not quite in the Timothy Chalamet is the greatest thing that has ever happened to Earth camp, and I know I'm an outlier.
But you're into ping pong.
I am really. This is the only sport I'm good at, actually. And it's not because I'm good. It's because I have long arms, actually.
Oh, okay.
In any case, Marty Supreme.
We
We
should
have
have a
sound
ping
from
pong
Marty
tournament.
Supreme.
Jim and I'm pretty good at ping pong.
In all
I'm not so
seriousness,
good.
I don't mean to brag. I would crush you like a bug. No, I'm really.
That's what he said about the push-up contest
And I
we
did-
had.
and I did
no,
crush
no,
you like
I
a
won.
bug.
Are you kidding? I killed you
I
in the
did.
push-up contest.
Actually,
When
it
did
was
you
a
have a
sit-up.
push-up
When we
It was
were
a
at a
sit-up.
different radio
It was
station.
sit-up.
It was
that
push-ups.
proves she lost because it was sit-ups,
It was
not
push-ups.
push-ups.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, in
It's
any
push-ups.
case, okay. Marty Supreme, here's
Jim did one, and then it was.
Maybe we should revive them
No,
both
and then
right
there was
now.
lunch.
I can't get up.
We have the
Okay.
lighting grid. You could do the pull-ups.
Okay, enough of that. Okay, that's funny. That's fairly funny,
I can't
actually.
do pull-ups. We don't want to
Okay,
do that.
here's a clip from the opening scene and trailer of Marty Supreme starring the aforementioned Chalamet. Here it is.
No, but I do want to discuss it now, because when I'm back from my trip, this is over. I'm not coming back here and doing this. Speaking of which, can we settle up now? I gotta buy my plane ticket.
We'll settle at closing.
I wanted to see the travel agent on my lunch break.
You'll never come back after your lunch break.
That's what you think of me?
Yes.
You think I would go and I just not come
Yes.
back?
I have a purpose.
Okay. Let me ask you something. Do you make money at this little table tennis thing?
Not yet.
What do you think?
I thought this was a fantastic film, and Timothy Chalamet, who pretty much everything he's been in, I think he's been pretty extraordinary. You think of Bob Dylan most recently, what he did in that role. Of course, Call Me By Your Name, Little Women, he was so engaging in that film. By the way, I
Yes.
interviewed him when he did that film. He's such a nice person on top of all of this. But this takes his skill, I think, to a different level, and we can absolutely see his mastery of acting. So this is based on a real-life figure, this man from the 1950s who had no shortage of confidence in thinking that he could be the tabletop tennis. This is when you get to the competitive level, it doesn't become ping pong anymore. It's tabletop tennis.
It's not a very dignified word, ping pong. is it?
Exactly. But it's based on this man, and Timothy Chalamet inhabits this character who will stop at nothing to become the tabletop tennis champion, and stealing money from his family, betraying the relationship with his mother, played by Fran Drescher, in a role that in a way that you've never seen her before, leaving the woman who he's basically just had a child with at bay so he can go off and pursue his career, lying to get in the rooms where it happens to get money, talking himself into an affair with this retired actress played by Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah.
It's a really, and because this is by Josh Safdie, who with his brother did Uncut Gems, and if you saw that film,
that was great.
You know, it has this very frenetic pacing. It's constantly moving, and this is the
That's
same.
with Adam Sandler, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, he was great in that. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And so Marty Supreme is the same. It's just moving, and you're always in the mania that he creates in his life. And Timothy Chalamet studied or practiced, rehearsed, played tabletop tennis and ping pong for years. So he's actually playing in this film, and he's extraordinary. So maybe you should invite him to a match.
By the way, it's not tabletop tennis, it's table tennis.
Wait a minute. So
Table
when he was just playing it, ping pong or whatever, anyway,
Apparently,
before
yeah.
he even knew he was going to be in the, was there some preparation
Who
for
doesn't
this
play
role?
ping pong? Everybody plays
Oh,
ping
as a
pong.
kid, I played ping pong.
I played beer pong.
Beer pong,
This is more
yeah,
fun.
it's more fun.
Okay,
Absolutely.
no paddle, just-
But so it just was coincidence, or was he
No, I think he
gunning
always
for this
had.
role?
I think he had an idea of
Okay.
this, and this is how it all coalesced. But yeah, there's some really great casting. Pulling in somebody from Shark Tank, pulling in Penn Jillette, he's almost unrecognizable. Then Fran Drescher. So it's also a great movie because it's so unexpected in so many regards.
Is Penn Jillette the tall one or the small one?
The tall one.
Tall one, yeah.
I hope I
You're
had
not
that
sure?
right.
Was that's the guy we had on?
Yeah,
With
he's
a
the tall
card
one.
in my back pocket. It was the most unbelievable
Yeah.
trick I ever saw. Okay, so it's a great film.
And so we'll start to see what happens with the Golden Globes this week, because
Well,
a
the
lot of
Golden
people
Globes-
they're this weekend, and he's nominated. And so far as I've seen it, there are a couple people. I think he'll be going up against Ethan Hawke for Blue Moon. So we'll see how this is trending. This may get him his first Oscar.
Wow.
Okay, tell us about Wonder at the American Repertory Theater. Is that still in the same place, or has it moved?
It's still in the same place. This is about a young boy who has a facial disfigurement, and people might know the book turned into film with Julia Roberts and
Owen Wilson.
Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
And it's about this family that is this really fantastic unit. And this boy who, when we first meet him, is wearing a helmet, a space helmet over his head because he's so aware of how people look at him, until his parents decide that it's time for him to stop being homeschooled and they want to send him out into the world. And this takes us through him navigating school life. But it's really lovely because you have a family who loves him. You have a sister who's very protective of him. And while it is difficult as he navigates his way through the world, it changes once he becomes accepted. So it has a really beautiful message. So we're talking about it now because it's at the American Repertory Theater through February 8th. This is the first musical adaptation of this story. Sarah Rule, who's a very acclaimed playwright, has written the book for this. The Grammy-winning duo A Great Big World, who did the song Say Something, they have written the music for this. And so it really takes us into his life, but through the different viewpoints of the person who's bullying him and why they might be doing that, through Augie's own experience as this boy, even through this friend he's created and an astronaut, a fellow astronaut as he sees him, and to the parents and what they experience. So it becomes a very moving experience as we see this adapted for the stage. And it's played by actors who have these conditions in real life.
Oh, wasn't that a big issue with was it the movie where that was an issue?
Yeah, because Jacob Tremblay played him and did not have to confront these issues. And I think this is the power of theater. Again, it's all about being in a living, breathing space with people playing these characters and understanding what they bring to it by your own spending time with them.
Okay. Why isn't the ART yet in Boston? Are they behind schedule, or is this what it should be?
Actually, I think they're very much on schedule. I think it's supposed to open in the spring. For people who don't know, the Loeb Drama Center is closing. It will still be used by students, presumably, in Harvard Square, but they're building a massive new facility, at least $100 million across from the stadium in Alston.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
Yeah.
Very
we're short on time, but give us, is this a room?
Yeah.
Give us a quick one if you can.
So you might remember the person reality winner who was arrested for basically her government access. She took a secret document that showed that there was Russian interference in our voting system, and she was arrested and went to jail. Well, Tina Satter, who is a playwright, took the transcript of her initial interrogation when she arrived home one day in Georgia, and outside her house, a few FBI agents descended and then brought her into her house and had this interrogation. Tina Satter created basically a play. A play seems to be a strange word to use because it's built entirely around the transcript of this interrogation without any interference by a writer whatsoever, and it works. It was proclaimed one of the best plays in New York in 2019 when it premiered there. Now it's being done at Chelsea Theatre Works by Apollinaire Theatre in Chelsea. It's on through January 11th. But it's really interesting to have just the text of this exchange and to understand how this all unfolded. And you have people playing roles. You have Reality Winner, who is suddenly in her own home confronted by FBI agents and how she's trying to defend herself until she can no longer do that. You see and watch how the FBI employ their own techniques, playing roles. Let me be your friend first. We just want to ask about your dogs and your pets and where are we going to do this in your house? That's why it's called Is This a Room? And the techniques they employ to draw out this confession from her, and it becomes riveting. Also, very interesting, there's a lot that's redacted from these transcripts, which, by the way, Tina Satter wanted to present this as theater because she felt, and many felt, that they released these transcripts to humiliate Reality Winner. She wanted to show that here's a young woman and look at how she comports herself when she's confronted by these three men from the FBI. But they've even redacted some elements that remain redacted, and so those pieces are very artfully excised right before us as they're talking in terms of this exchange. It's very fascinating. And again, if you have any interest in, especially the FBI and how they practice and how you yourself would hold up under this pressure, it's very riveting.
And redactions, in my experience, have been to cover the derriere of people in the government who did things wrong, not to protect any victims.
Well, there are certainly projects and other information that you know exactly what's being redacted.
Good.
But
Good.
Yeah, so you can follow the through
And
lines.
it's only there till the 11th, so if you're going to go quickly. Did you get a flu shot? Did you get a flu shot?
I did get the flu shot.
Okay, fine.
Okay. I even waited. I got it later this year, not even knowing that it was going to be all
Sorry
around
you got
us.
stuck on the T. We'll
Glad
certainly
you made
get to the bottom of that. Jared Bowen, Executive Arts Editor for GBH, host of The Culture Show, which is going to be live here today at the BPL right after we finish at 2 o'clock. Listeners in Western Mass, you can get their dose of Jared and Company Saturdays at 7 p.m. on 88.5. NEPM. We say goodbye to people that have been listening to us this morning on NEPM, but the Fabulous 413 is at 3 o'clock this afternoon, and they are great. Our show continues here in Boston. Juliette Kayyem will be up after the noon news. We'll talk with her about Venezuela, this Russian ship, January 6th, and a lot of other security news. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. This is BPR and GBH and NEPM Live from the Boston Public Library.
You're listening to Boston Public Radio with Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. Just ahead, more smart conversation about what's going on in our community. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Mass Humanities, presenting Voices and Votes, Democracy in America, a Smithsonian exhibition in East Sandwich now through January 30th, in collaboration with Massachusetts 250. MassHumanities.org. 1 year after the devastating LA wildfires, explore the factors behind this historic fire and how communities can rebuild and prevent future disasters. Watch Weathered after the LA firestorm, tonight at 10 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on Hour 2 of BPR Live from the library. As Donald Trump threatens military action beyond Venezuela, calling out Cuba, Colombia, Greenland, Iran, what's real and what's just political rhetoric? We'll talk to Harvard national security expert Juliette Kayyem about that and the January 6th anniversary.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then just before the deadline, the Kraft Group finally struck a deal to open a new professional soccer stadium in Everett. We'll talk with Boston Globe business columnist Shirley Leung about that and more business headlines. Then, listeners everywhere are rejoicing. It's our Two More Things segment. Next on the second hour, BPR 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The United Kingdom says it provided support to a U.S. military operation to seize an oil tanker in the North Atlantic, one of two such operations today, targeting Venezuela-linked ships. The other was in the Caribbean. NPR's Lauren Frayer has the latest from London.
The UK Ministry of Defence says it let the US military launch this attack from British military bases and provided surveillance support. UK Defence Secretary John Healey says the ship had a, quote, nefarious history, part of a Russian-Iranian axis of sanctions evasion. The US says it had been monitoring the ship for weeks after its crew rebuffed attempts to board it in the Caribbean. It then changed course toward Europe and changed its flag to a Russian one. Russia's transportation ministry reacted by saying no government has the right to use force against another's ships. The U.S. seized the ship between Iceland and Scotland, citing what it says are violations of U.S. sanctions on Venezuelan oil. Lauren Frayer, NPR News, London.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio has just attended a closed-door briefing with members of Congress. He later addressed reporters about the Venezuela operation over the weekend and U.S. interests in that country's oil.
It's not just saying or speculating it's going to happen. It's already happening. Like the oil arrangement that we've made with PDVSA on their sanctioned oil that they can't move. Understand, they are not generating any revenue from their oil right now. They can't move it unless we allow it to move because we have sanctions, because we're enforcing those sanctions. This is tremendous leverage.
European leaders have raised concerns about President Trump's threat that he wants to now gain control of Greenland and its resources. Rubio says, quote, if the president identifies a threat to the national security of the United States, every president retains the option to address it through military means, end quote. The administration says it's freezing billions of dollars in low-income aid for 5 Democratic-led states. NPR's Jennifer Ludden has more.
The funding freeze is for California, Colorado, Minnesota, Illinois, and New York. The biggest chunk is $7 billion for cash assistance, plus money to help families with childcare and other social services. A Health and Human Services official confirmed the move to NPR, but did not say why only these states. The New York Post first reported the freeze, citing claims the money was going to migrants who are in the U.S. illegally, but with no specific evidence. This all follows a wider freeze on childcare funding after a right-wing media influencer put a spotlight on alleged welfare fraud in Minnesota. On X, New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand accused the administration of political retribution. Jennifer Ludden, NPR News, Washington.
At last check on Wall Street, the Dow was down 71 points at 49,390. This is NPR News.
Good afternoon from the GBH Newsroom in Boston. I'm Henry Santoro.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is calling.
U.S. Senator Ed Markey may be leading in the polls over challenger Seth Moulton in the race for the Democratic Senate primary, but Moulton is leading in the fundraising department. Globe reports that Moulton raised over $2 million since launching his primary challenge to Markey and counts just over $3 million in his campaign coffers heading into the 2026 election year. That amount has surpassed Markey's cash on hand, with roughly $780,000 raised and an additional $2.7 million in his coffers. We're 9 months away from the September primary. It'll be here before we know it. No one was injured when a portion of the roof collapsed at the Margaritaville Resort on Route 132 in Hyannis last night. Hyannis Fire Department was called to the scene just after 10 p.m. The collapse was likely triggered by a leaky roof. When part of that roof collapsed, a pipe connected to the sprinkler system broke, causing additional water damage. Guests in the part of the hotel were relocated to other rooms. And a backyard flock of chickens on Martha's Vineyard infected with avian flu influenza has been destroyed. Mass Department of Agricultural Resources and local agencies took the action yesterday after the bird showed clinical signs of consistent with highly pathogenic avian influenza and tested positive for the disease. The department did not release the exact location of that infestation. Snow showers and light rain today, high-low 30s. We are at 33 degrees in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance with its Name Your Price tool, a way to see coverage options based on a driver's budget. Learn more at progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Hello, Marjorie. Oh, your mic's not working.
My mic's not working.
Oh, it is now?
Now it is now. Okay,
Hi.
Thank you. Hi, Jim. Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. That's Jim over there. He just said hello. I'm Marjorie Egan. We're streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. The Attorney General is going to join us, Andrea Joy Campbell, on January 13th, 11 to 12. And the Mayor, Michelle Wu, will be with us January 20th from noon to 1, both at the library. Hello, Jim.
Hello, Marjorie. Joined now at the library desk by national security expert Juliette Kayyem. She's former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under Barack Obama. She's the did I say this? No, she's the faculty chair of the Homeland Security Program at the Harvard's Kennedy School of Government and CNN Senior National Security Analyst. Hello, Juliette.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Juliette.
Hi. Thanks for first show of the year.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Not for us.
I know.
Okay,
have we landed in Greenland yet? Are we
Oh
there?
my God.
Are the troops there on the ground, the parachuters coming?
Jim and I, oh my God, I look so, I have this white blazer
Yeah, you
on.
do.
Hi, everyone.
I like the white
blazer.
It's rather bright.
It is rather bright. I apologize to viewers on YouTube.
No,
Put your
I love
sunglasses on. Oh my gosh. I was remarking, here's my deep foreign policy analysis.
Okay.
I was remarking to Jim, what is it about the Scandinavian leadership, the prime minister, the monarchy? These people are better looking than average. I'm like, I literally watched the press conference and I was like, I know I'm supposed to be paying attention to content, but anyway, besides.
Well, that's why Trump wants them.
Besides,
no, Trump wants them because they're white. That's why.
Well, they're good looking. They're good looking, and they're also the tallest. I think the Dutch and the Danes are the tallest people in the world.
The whole thing is like
fit right in there, Jim.
Okay, Greenland. So, I mean, we have to put this in context of the president's riffing at various moments after the action. What are we? We're not calling it a war. Law enforcement action is what we call it in Venezuela. Greenland is this litany of lists of Cuba and Panama and Colombia and Mexico, even, of where the Trump's disappointment in whatever thing he's disappointed in would justify military action. And so we're in year 2 of a wildly unpopular president who's looking at midterms and thinks that this will galvanize people because he is going to create enemies. The Greenland bid depends on who you listen to. The president talks about taking Greenland or military action. He doesn't put that off the table. Remember, Greenland is essentially a colony of Denmark. Denmark is a member of NATO. Marco Rubio tries to bring that back, as he tried to do with the action in Venezuela, and say, well, we're interested in buying them. Greenland's not for sale, and no one knows what the interest is. Our relationship with Greenland is based on a 1950s agreement that provides almost anything that we would want there. I mean, in terms of military and national security issues. So one has to believe there's another reason for it, in the same way that
Don't gloss over that. I want to stay on that for a minute.
Yeah.
The 1951 agreement, which I learned about last night, I didn't know about, with Denmark, allows us to do every single thing that Miller, Rubio, and Trump say we want to do.
Yeah.
We want additional military bases.
Can do it.
This allows it to happen. So this, whatever is going on, is either there's another agenda, as you say, or this is another one of his macho things. The person you left out of the troika, by the way, Rubio, Trump, is Miller. Here's Miller.
Oh, this was crazy.
Here's Miller
with Jake.
Talking about, with Jake Tapper at CNN, talking about whether or not the U.S. would use force to take Greenland. Tapper first, then Miller.
Can you rule out that the U.S. is ever going to try to take Greenland by force?
The president has been clear for months now that the United States should be the nation that has Greenland as part of our overall security apparatus.
Right, but can you say that military action against Greenland is off the table?
It wouldn't be military action against Greenland. The United States is the power of NATO. For the United States to secure the Arctic region, to protect and defend NATO and NATO interests, obviously Greenland should be part of the United States. And so that's a conversation that we're going to have.
By the way, so I don't know why that ended so abruptly. This, by that reasoning about what happens within NATO, if Trump said we're going to take France tomorrow, we can take France.
Yeah.
If you're part of NATO and we need it, we take it.
If we want it, we get it. And so that's where I don't like the sort of, this is what America does, and you can just debate it on whether it's a good thing or a bad thing that America does. If you look at Venezuela, first of all, we have never done military action in South America, and the distinction, of course, is the Caribbean and Latin America are different than South America. So that's just so it's not that we have a historical precedent here. The second is because we can theory is not any doctrine that any of us know, right? I mean, in other words, there's not even a pretense of a national security interest, not a pretense of an imminent threat at this stage. They're trying to backtrack, or they're trying to justify the Venezuela action as a law enforcement effort. Didn't look like a law enforcement effort. There are 80 dead Venezuelans in this action.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, right? I mean, it's just we're just glossing over that, and everyone says, "Well, it was a strategic, successful military action."
Some are Cubans, by the way. You mean in Venezuela?
Yeah, in Venezuela. Some are Cubans because of the intelligence apparatus. Anyway, and then it was clear by that afternoon that Trump, whatever he was saying in terms of what day 2, day 3, day 4 plans were in in Venezuela, that the various people in the White House had to sort of unwind that because, he kept talking about oil, which is not happening. I mean, it is. I mean, he can claim it is, but all the research, all the experts on oil in Venezuela say it will take a massive multi-billion-dollar investment in infrastructure to get the kind of oil that Venezuela has, because it is a failed state, to our markets, years and years, and the industry doesn't want it.
So what does he say to them? He's meeting with them in the Oval Office on Friday.
He got duped.
No, what is he going to say to the oil companies on Friday to convince them that they should
We're going to
make a
subsidize
risky
you.
investment. That's exactly right.
We're going to subsidize you to do something that you don't
Exactly
need.
right.
I mean, that's like, so
I
think the day 3 story, here's Rubio right now on CNN. I think the day 3, day 4, day 5 story, or the ones that we should follow are, I don't know if Venezuela is going to hold. I don't like what I've been seeing the last 24
What does that
hours.
mean?
I mean, it's a failed state. We decapitated the leadership. We have with the vice president is trying to maneuver a military, Cuban intelligence, a paramilitary, violent groups, a strong drug cartel. You tell me she can do it? I don't know. I mean, and I don't think the White House knows. So what you're seeing on the streets, and the media is not essentially being let in. So this is, through what we're hearing from people is, is unrest that may lead to something bigger. So we don't know what is going to happen there. And I think the other day 3, 4, 5 story is who duped the president. I mean,
I have a very petty theory
Yeah.
here, which seems so petty. You're going to think it's absolutely ridiculous, but I think it's got a lot to it. I think Stephen Miller is the force behind the throne now. He's running everything in the White House. He is a disturbed person, obsessed with immigration. Millions of Venezuelans have come into this country.
Yeah,
Don't forget, it was
GPS.
the Venezuelans he put on that ship, a plane rather, to go to that horrible prison in El Salvador. So he's got the presence here on Venezuela, and I think that Jim has ridiculed me, but the idea that Maduro was annoying Trump by not bowing to what Trump wanted him to do, and he's on television dancing all the time, and it really ticked off Trump. And I think that they had the military ready to go in the background, obviously, but I think this is petty stuff. I think it's Stephen Miller,
the petty stuff
immigration,
is of course Donald Trump throwing the the Nobel laureate under the bus because he was mad that she didn't stand there and say this is Donald Trump's. And so I mean, so the what happens next has clearly not been thought through, and like, just everyone take a step back. Like, this is where, in my world, in foreign policy and national security, you're supposed to give doctrines and ways to think about stuff. This is crazy. That's my analysis. And the fact that we have to be rational or be sophisticated in trying to understand a long-term agenda here. We don't do this as the United States simply because we can.
Yeah, well,
and we don't have a party we don't have a Republican Party that's putting.
But don't you think?
Can I give an update? Can I give an update for a second here? We just saw there was a press conference with a bunch of members of the cabinet, including the Secretary of State Rubio, Defense Hegseth, Kennedy, etc. Hegseth and Rubio told reporters, according to NPR, that they just briefed senators on a process vis-a-vis Venezuela, stabilization, recovery, and transition, whatever that means.
Yeah.
They will, it will involve a, quote, quarantine for Venezuela, a process, that will include selling sanctioned oil, distributing the process. We don't want it to descend into chaos. I don't think they've described what that means, but that's that situation. I want to get back to the Greenland thing. And by the way, the former ambassador to Denmark, who was the chief of protocol for Joe Biden, Rufus Gifford, will join us on Monday.
Fantastic.
Greenland is the immediate target. So we have Cuba as a potential target. We have Colombia as a potential target. We're, quote, according to Trump, locked and loaded, ready to go to Iran if any demonstrators are killed. And they have been or will be. And Mexico is potentially a problem, too.
America first.
And so,
don't you think that was a big part of the problem? What happened to Maduro could happen to you. He wants to use the United States military because he can, without any kind of congressional authority. He doesn't care about breaking the laws. And he just wants everybody else to be scared of him.
Let me just say that I think it was Auchincloss with whom we spoke, who suggested that Greenland was real, and a lot of people say it was really going to happen.
I think so.
I mean, they're going to do Cuba? They're going to do Colombia?
Well, Rubio wants to do. I mean, it just depends on sort of the Venezuela action is not polling well for the president, and I think the worse things get in Venezuela, it will poll even less if they. But Rubio, I remember when Rubio became
all about Cuba.
Yeah, and when he became Secretary of State, I remember seeing an analysis saying, South America, watch out. that Rubio has had his eye on reforming South America, Latin America, Caribbean because of his personal background.
Had to leave Cuba.
Right, had to leave Cuba, and and he grew up in the Cuban diaspora in Florida. So I do think that all of these are on the table, and I don't get thinking that they're not. You see people say, well, there's no way he's going to do this or that. He's going to do it all, honestly, until the next election. There's no check on him now, except for public opinion and voting, because the Republicans have folded again on this issue. And as I said, every once in a while, I would like to take a step back from analysis and just look at the world and say, there's no strategy here.
Well, can we talk about that?
Except for how the president at 2:00 in the morning is feeling.
And who's the last person who spoke to him with the Millers and whatever kind of thing?
Okay.
Okay, what?
Are you done with this yet?
No, I'm not done.
There's no plans.
This is, I'm going to play Marjorie Egan here. I am not a military expert. Was that a good imitation of you?
Yeah, that's right.
Unless we find out in a few days that the acting president, the former vice president, acted tough for a week, and that was a deal that she worked out with Rubio.
His father, as a little girl, was probably killed by Americans, by the way, in a prison after kidnapping. He was a guerrilla who kidnapped an American businessman. So you wonder what her psyche is when her father was probably killed by Americans.
Unless we find out in a week that the deal that was cut with Rubio was, I'm going to talk tough for a week or two, and then you're going to make me an offer I can't refuse, and we'll cut a deal, which would suggest the United States, whether we like it or not, actually did have a plan. If that's not what happens in a week or two, it appears they went into this, which I find impossible to believe, with absolutely no plan about what was going to happen after they got Maduro out of the country.
Yeah.
Is that it? Is that?
So, I mean, there's a difference between leadership change and regime change.
Of course.
My guess is that they convinced themselves, because they were not pursuing regime change, the vice president is now the president, that leadership change was easy, right? So, I get it. I mean, in the sense they can convince themselves of that. I don't think that the 3D chess that you're describing, that we're in some, theater right now in which everyone's saying that they're upset, but in the end there's going to be a deal. It's hard to see how what that deal would look like that's not just a fake deal. And it may be that's how Trump gets out of this, is that he has some fake deal about Venezuelan oil.
I'll tell you what the deal is. Exactly. He says,
he
here's
has
the deal.
access to the oil.
No. I will get the oil companies to do the billions of dollars, maybe $100 billion investment over the next decade, and we're going to share all the oil revenue that you are not able to get because you can only produce 1 million barrels a day.
Right.
You're going to be producing 3 million barrels in 10 years. We're going to split that extra money. That's great for your country. It's great for your economy.
I would think that was true, but for the fact that you see Trump talking about subsidizing the companies. So I'm wondering if the economics just don't make sense. They probably will say what Trump wants them to say tomorrow. I guess he's meeting with them, but the
Friday.
Economics of this don't make sense.
Okay, one last thing. Are we going to seize Greenland, yes or no?
Yes.
And what is NATO going to do?
What do you think?
What is NATO going to do when we do that?
What does it mean, seize?
I don't know. I mean,
I run. Trump will say, I run Greenland.
I run Greenland. Yeah. Okay.
And there's going to be.
And what does NATO do in response to that?
NATO doesn't really know what to do. This was not in the scenario planning of Article 5, which is but Europe, NATO now has two enemies. That's just the way to look at the world now. It is Russia, and now it is us. And it is a remarkable change in just 2 or 3 years. There's no point in trying to understand it. It is wrong. I mean, at some stage, we just have to begin to not. Like you have to begin with that sentence, right? This is just wrong. And that's why I like this guy, Adam Smith, the congressman.
He's good. He's the ranking member of the Armed Services Committee.
Whatever analysis you want him to give, he opens up saying this is not only illegal, it's just wrong. It's just wrong. It's not the kind of power that the United States is generally good at, right? Occupation, colonization, but it's not who we are.
Well, not to mention that the people voted for Trump to bring down prices, not to invade foreign countries.
And then I love the Iraq analogy where it's like, do we, is this like Iraq, or what did we learn from Iraq? The point is, we are 15 years or however many years, 20 years from the beginning of the war in Iraq. Like, what lesson more do we need that's like a little enterprise that we don't go down?
That we got rid of everybody that was in leadership and that was in the military and that in Iraq, and they're not going to do that here because it was that they would have been better off in hindsight in Iraq not to do the so-called de-Ba'athification that we talked about. So supposedly there's we're doing a 180 now because she's not bringing back the one woman that won the Nobel
And I am
Peace Prize.
telling you, when I'm here in 2 weeks, I'm not here next week, is Venezuela in massive tumult. And I'm saying I can't
arresting people,
I know.
right?
So I mean, there are consequences for this for people in the world. And is that a consequence you want the United States to be responsible for? This administration says yes. But the idea that we have to understand this under some theory, it's the theory of because we can.
Okay, we only have a couple of minutes left. Can I change?
Because we can.
Only a couple of minutes. Explain to me, in light of what happened at the Station nightclub in Rhode Island, with 100 dead, I think 23, 24 years ago, because of the pyrotechnics. In light of however many, 40 plus people, mostly 16 to 24 years old, dead in Switzerland, why does any club in the world have pyrotechnics or
inside?
Inside. Ever.
Don't do it. It is unbelievable. This is like the things that make me angry because they're so avoidable. What we're learning now is obviously this was a sort of an unregulated bar. It was probably overfilled because of New Year's Eve. So there's going to be criminal liability for the owners of the bar as there was in Rhode Island. It also seems like there wasn't much notification of what was happening. So the horror of this for someone like me who unfortunately watches these things is you're seeing people in real time realize that they are now in danger. It's like the sort of like the avalanche coming.
And they can't get out.
And they can't get out. And there's been no notice of what it is that is actually ongoing. They think it started from a sparkler in a champagne glass, and something exploded, obviously, and then something caught on fire, and it was just not stopped in time. But these mass casualty events, in most cases, are absolutely avoidable. And the number dead, I remember just like waking up the next morning, I was like, that doesn't happen. That happens by overt negligence,
and the staircase too.
Yeah, all
they
of
were
it.
all piled up.
Well, you know what? Also, we don't do enough. I mean, this came. Maybe you brought it up with us. Is when hundreds of people who were not killed in that Las Vegas shooting. I think it was the biggest mass shooting, or close to it ever, were shot. And occasionally, your network, CNN, would do a story about a survivor and how destroyed physically they were. The 100+ people who survived, many of whom are horribly burned, and the impact of this that trickles out is so intense and so severe that it's unbelievable.
No, it's we talk about this in terms of gun violence, that you can look at numbers, but for every person killed, or there's a bunch of people wounded, but then there's a whole network of people who are traumatized by this or fearful or worried about the next thing. So, I mean, it's just outrageous.
Before you go, I just want to give you an update.
I saw you
Jamie,
smile.
thank you. This is from NPR. So one of our favorite people, Carolyn Levitt, who's the PR person for the president. This is about Greenland. All options are on the table for President Trump, as he examines what's in the best interest of the U.S. This is why I laughed. But I will just say the president's first option always has been diplomacy, just like the model he used in Venezuela. I mean, this is look, I mean, it is the president
has no consistent theory, and so you just have a bunch of people reacting to whatever mood he's in or the last person that he saw. So the fact that the narratives don't make sense is just consistent with that. But I do want to start with, I want to end with, I know that we're supposed to give, analysis and try to understand this, but I just begin with, this is just shameful that the United States did this. And I do think that we will view this as more consequential than the limited engagement that it is. This is the beginning of the because we can doctrine.
Thank you, Juliette Kayyem.
We were speaking with Juliette Kayyem, former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under President Barack Obama, Faculty Chair of the Homeland Security Program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, and CNN Senior National Security Analyst. Coming up, Shirley Leung from the Boston Globe is here to talk about cranes all over the city, stadiums, the mayor, a bunch of other subjects. I'm Marjorie Regan. He's Jim Browdy. Listening to BPR 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Arun Roth. Today on GBH's All Things Considered, local agencies working with refugees speak out about the challenges they're facing under the Trump administration. And Venezuelans in our community grapple with what Nicolas Maduro's capture could mean for democracy and socialism. GBH's Tori Bedford joins us with reactions from Venezuela and beyond. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Cambridge School of Culinary Arts in Porter Square, offering teen and adult recreational cooking and baking workshops, series, and cooking couples classes for culinary enthusiasts. CambridgeCulinary.com. And Fixed Dental, offering permanent teeth-on implants, customized in their laboratory, enabling their doctors and technicians to oversee every aspect of the smile design. Learn more about all the treatments offered at Fixed at FixedDental.com.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, stream at youtube.com/GBH News. We're joined now at the library by Shirley Leung, business columnist for the Boston Globe, host of the Say More podcast, and a BPR contributor. Hi, Shirley.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Marjorie.
How are you?
Happy New Year.
And to you, of course.
You too. So, Brian McRoy, one of my favorite columnists, except for, of course, for Shirley Leung at the Boston Globe, is coming back to run the newspaper that he ran for, I think, 10 years as the editor.
Yes, he is back.
He's back.
Monday.
His first day was Monday. It was. It's great to have Brian back, but it is a little surreal, right? It's a little bit like the Twilight Zone.
It is. Yeah.
What do you say to this? Has there been a meeting with staff?
There's a meeting. His first town hall. His first town hall is in. Let's see. What time is it? 2.5 hours.
How do people feel about this?
I think generally, but they're good. They're excited to see Brian back, and though it's a very new staff too, I mean,
some of whom didn't have Brian 1.0.
Right. I mean, Brian's been gone for about 3 years. We said goodbye to him in January 2023. We had a big party for him and a long goodbye. And then he went to be the dean of the journalism school or journalism department chair at Boston University. And so that's where he's been. And he's taking a leave of absence and coming back to be the editor of the Globe. And so it's his first week back. And Nancy Barnes, the previous editor, she hired 70 journalists, which is
7?
So it's
wow.
That's a third of the staff is new, and so it is somewhat of a very new staff for Brian. So I think he's going to be spending his time meeting new staff and reconnecting with the old staff.
He'll be back with us in a couple of weeks. By the way, why is Nancy Barnes gone?
You're going to have to ask Brian that question above my pay grade.
Do you know why and won't tell us?
Above my pay grade.
Okay, fine.
There you go.
Okay.
Very diplomatic,
She was there
Shirley.
just 3 years, right?
Just under 3 years.
Yeah.
And she was here once.
Yeah,
when,
right before she announced she was gone.
Yeah.
Maybe it was you, Jim, something you said.
Jim wasn't there.
That
Jim,
day.
it was something you said, Marjorie.
Something I said. No, we're going to blame Andrea Cabral. Was it Andrea that was here that day?
I think so. It was you and Andrea.
That's right.
Yes, we'll blame Andrea.
We'll find out from Andrea what happened.
Okay, so Brian McGrory's back, and as I say, he'll be back with us in a couple of weeks.
So you and your colleague Larry Larry Edelman ran around investigating what's going to happen in 2026 economically. So what's going to happen?
Yeah, so Larry Edelman is the author of a very popular newsletter at the Globe called Trend Lines. And he was the one that figured out that I've done 120 episodes of Say More. And this is the first time I had my colleague Larry, on the podcast.
No.
And we had him on to talk about the economy and, what was it like in 2025 and predictions for 2026. Because every time when we, at the end of the year, all of us, economists or business journalists, and both of us have spent decades as business journalists, and we're like, will there be a recession next year? And and every year I have to say I've been wrong. I've been wrong every single year. I mean, every year for the last 5 years, I'm like, the recession is bound to happen. It definitely was going to happen this year because of tariffs, of course, but no, we didn't fall into recession. I mean, we just had wasn't the stock market hit a high?
Yesterday, all-time high.
Right, all-time high. So he doesn't think there's going to be a recession in 2026. Very low chance, of a recession. But the economy is clearly slowing, and it's slowing in Massachusetts. We're not creating as many jobs as we have been. A lot of it is related to the threat of federal research cuts at our universities and our hospitals. So if we do fall into a recession, I mean, we probably will feel it first here in Massachusetts.
Because companies aren't hiring, and there's an uncertainty. I mean, that's what I've been reading. There's an uncertainty about the tariffs, even though they haven't been as bad as we thought in terms of their impact. But that's really hard on people that are trying to quit a job they don't like to find a new job.
Yeah, people are job hugging now.
Yes, job hugging.
They are not quitting.
But can we tell for people who are saying "I told you so," the tariffs didn't have as horrible an impact as people like you were projecting. I mean, I read a lot about this in the last few days, and you know more about it than I do. The reason is because the economy is such a mess. Unemployment is higher, demand is down because people don't have the money. So by definition, that's going to keep the impact of tariffs a little bit less significant than it would otherwise be. So it's not that it's a good thing.
It's not a good thing, but kind of what people thought, because we read a lot of headlines about the Trump administration and how high the tariffs would be. They would be astronomical, right?
Yeah.
20%, 30%, 40%. But in reality, it was much lower than that. And I've been reading about this, whether, for the past couple months, that the reality, it was more like the bark was worse than the bite.
But it's still high. It's not as high as...
It's not as high. It's maybe more like, 15%. And then at that rate, what happened was companies just ate the cost, rather than scare customers away. They said, well, we won't raise prices by 15%. We'll just maybe raise it, a smaller percentage. But people do think that this is the year that we'll probably start to feel the real impacts of tariffs.
Well, the other thing, that to continue the conversation we had with Juliette, and we've been having the last few days, one thing you guys didn't consider because you didn't know about it at the time was what happens if we get involved in all these foreign entanglements that are hugely expensive, not just in terms of person power, but in terms of dollars. So in any case, can we talk about one of my favorite things that the Globe talks about, and I don't understand it? I don't mean this critically because the people who've written about it I'm big fans of. Is there any group of people who matter less than the Boston City Council? Except maybe the Cambridge City Council, on which I serve. There's all this hand-wringing, backroom deals, who became president, they undercut this one. Okay, here's a quiz for you, one of the smartest people at the Boston Globe.
Yes.
Tell me the 5 great things the City Council has done in the last 20 years, and you cannot say, produced Ayanna Pressley, and
that's because I already
Michelle
said it.
Wu.
And Tom
Wait,
and
come on.
You create a body.
Exactly, the great mayors of
Okay.
Ray Flynn, the City Council.
Flynn.
You're both joking.
Exactly.
Tell me what the City Council has done in the
That's what
last
they've
20
done,
years
Jim.
that merits the
Training
amount of
ground.
hand-wringing over this thing.
All right, so
they have no power.
Come on, they have some power.
Minor
Okay,
power
minor
over budgets.
power.
Okay.
Come on, but they have had. I mean, it's important. This
Constituent
is the,
service.
Wait, you create
You
a
have someone to
legislative
call.
body so that it can train people for higher office?
Yes,
that's the argument.
No, it's
You've
constituent
gotta
service.
be
You
kidding.
can call someone and talk about the garbage that doesn't get picked up or the potholes in
That
front of
matters.
your house. It matters.
Why can't the mayor of the city of Boston have 13 people assigned to different neighborhoods who provide constituent service?
Well, they can. But
Every
if you're an
decision
elected
is being
official,
made
there's
by the
more,
mayor.
There's more pressure on you, I think, if you have a little section of Dorchester. Or a
Why
little
don't you
section
name one thing the city council's done the last 20 years?
I named the most important thing this morning, and I was poo-pooed, of course, as usual, by you. Created the great leaders of the city.
You don't really believe that.
Jim, you came off the city council. Imagine if you
Exactly.
if you didn't
Had
if
I
you
not
were,
been
had you
there,
not been a city
exactly.
councilor, where would you
Well,
be?
you know what
Okay,
they were doing
fine.
over Cambridge, though? They were always issuing these opposition to the war in Iraq. The Cambridge City Council says
who
no
abstained
war
on that?
in Iraq.
Who abstained on that vote,
I
Marjorie?
hope you did, Jim.
I did.
Yeah.
Not
So they
because
were
I
always-
believed in the war in Iraq, but I
Yeah.
didn't think that was core business
And you
for
know
the
what?
council.
When the Cambridge City Council issued that edict, they were shaking in their boots in Iraq, let me tell you.
Can I ask one more favor, just because I feel really good about this? Can anybody text me who lives, you don't have to live in Boston, but if you do, but tell me the great thing, list 5 things the city council has done in the last 20 years that you're proud of.
I know. I know. I covered these hearings. Remember when the dogs were getting electrocuted
by the manhole covers.
And there were about, this would be probably
That's
before
true.
your
It was
time.
before my
There were
time.
like 20 dogs down in City Hall chambers who'd been injured. The dogs were there with their little, their paws with bandage and stuff like that. I think they put a stop to
That
it.
was significant.
Yeah, guess what? I've never heard about a dog being electrocuted by
That is a
big
very-
manhole.
both of you got me
put
on
a
that
stop
one.
to it.
Also,
Yeah.
Jim, the piece I'm working on right now is about liquor licenses, in Boston and what happened, and where do more liquor licenses have to begin? How does Boston get?
Well,
them?
you're
They
the
have-
liquor license
They have
expert.
to begin at home rule.
But who
petitions
finally
to
did the
city
responsible
council.
thing?
See the texter?
What's that?
Good at embezzling money for their relatives.
Well, that was
only
one person.
That was only one person.
Okay.
Oh,
In any
I
case,
don't think
neither
that
of them
many
can
people
answer
did
my
that.
question. Okay, you have to answer a couple of questions for me, Shirley Leung,
Yes.
about Everett. There
Yes.
are lots of things going on. We talked to Mayor Wu about this a few days ago, that if they hadn't cut a deal with the Kraft family around the Everett soccer stadium by December 31st, it went into binding arbitration. They did cut a deal at
Yes.
the last minute, which sounds good. That's one. Two, at the same time, the outgoing mayor, who was voted out of office, Di Maria, on his last day in office, cut a deal where there are going to be a couple of new hotels potentially, and they're going to be the Wynn people have contributed $25 million to potential
right.
commuter
And Everett
station.
also got their deal with soccer, with the Crafts
Everett
done as
did
well.
too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The Boston Globe editorial is saying at the same time, maybe that's a good place for the professional women's soccer team to play soccer rather than playing soccer in Franklin Park, where the price keeps going up. We haven't gotten a final number from the mayor. Here's my question, then you can talk about any of this. The issue around the Franklin Park Stadium, White Stadium, is before the state's highest court. The thing is essentially ripped down, from what I understand.
It's
except
demolished,
for
yes.
What happens if they rule against the city and say that what you did, you were not permitted to do because it was public land or whatever the argument is? What happens?
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't think. I think the city is going to. I think the SJC will continue to side.
What
with
if
the
they
city.
don't?
What if they don't? Well,
They took the case. They didn't even have to take the case.
right, but they also could have taken the case to kind of set a certain precedent.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
And
Yeah,
so,
you're right.
I mean, I was wondering that too. What would happen? And I guess the editorial seems to suggest that you could still build a stadium there, just not one for the women's soccer team, but a soccer stadium, the professional women's soccer team.
Just for something that would benefit the public school
Right.
students and the community.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think this is going to. I think there will be a soccer stadium there. I mean, I went to the trial. It seemed pretty clear that the city was on solid legal ground here to be able to build a soccer stadium there that would serve both a professional women's soccer team and BPS students.
Well, let me ask you something. If you do know, it does seem as though the tide has turned, that more people want it than don't want it now in Boston. Isn't that where we
White
are?
Stadium?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's always. I mean, I actually think what we haven't heard more about is it seems like a women's soccer stadium will be, a professional soccer stadium will be there.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear more about the concessions or amenity or community agreements. I mean, I feel like, but again, I think that side or that group of neighbors are still fighting the legal case, and that's what they're focused on
I guess
now.
the thing is, to me, half the schools in Boston, well, I shouldn't say half, but an awful lot of schools in Boston are falling apart. Everybody's complaining. They're not. Wouldn't it be great, for these athletes to have a state-of-the-art stadium in Boston? Because there's not that much state-of-the-art
Well,
anything.
but by the way, in all fairness, the plaintiffs in the litigation against the city, they want that too. Their contention is smaller scale, less expense, benefit the kids in the neighborhood. Don't make a deal with these private sector.
But isn't that one of the issues, that they're going to get more money from the soccer team, and that's going to make it a more impressive place? I thought.
And I don't think the city has money to do a soccer stadium without getting.
Yeah, that's what my understanding.
But I mean, I guess they are setting aside some amount of money right now. But I think one of the reasons why this deal with the women's soccer team works is because they're going to help maintain it, and I think that's where the extra money. That's why it's a good deal for the city. And I've heard other people say that maybe the women's soccer team didn't get a
good deal.
Yeah, they got a bad deal. They're paying a lot for this.
Can we stay on Everett for
and
one
they don't own it.
So DeMaria on his way out the door after having been defeated, as I said, he's got a sketchy history on some things, cuts this deal with Wynn on 2 hotels the day before the new mayor takes over. The new mayor says, I basically support the goals, but I want to examine this thing. Why are we not skeptical about whether or not there was a self-enrichment part? I mean, what kind of person on the way out the door cuts these huge deals rather than passing them on, other than somebody like Trump, obviously, passes them on to his or her successor and say, here's the foundation, take it home?
Well, the thing about DeMaria was very involved in bringing the casino.
Oh, of course he was,
to Everett. And so on his way out, he just wanted to add another, feather in his cap, And I know there's a lot of focus on the hotels, but I was very focused on the commuter rail station.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah. He has talked about, when I remember one time writing about the soccer stadium in Everett, I got to go up to the top of the Encore Casino and look down so we could see where the soccer stadium could be. But then you could also see the orange line and the commuter line, and you can see the tracks run through Everett, but actually don't stop.
It's incredible.
And so now it's incredible that there will be a commuter rail stop in Everett. There hasn't been one.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's incredible. So it's right there, but they don't have. I think maybe decades ago they might have had an orange line stop, but now for the first time they'll have a commuter rail stop. I think that's huge for the.
By the way, I agree with you. And for those who are listening, saying, "Oh my God, who cares about this?" I live a half a mile from Union Square in Somerville. Union Square before the Green Line extension and Union Square afterwards are almost like 2 different planets. Having a T stop, a commuter rail, a T, whatever in your community changes everything. I mean, it changes everything.
I assume that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to get that commuter rail stop. He's been talking about that for years.
By the way, it's not that you say they're getting one. It's not 100%. They agreed to contribute $25 million, but it's not 100% guaranteed yet, is it? It's not going to cost $25 million. It's going to cost more money.
It's going to cost more. But think about it. What's the most expensive part of this? It's the train tracks. They're there. All they have to do is build a station.
Oh, that's a good point.
And I think the T is on board already. I mean, this has been studied. I didn't know that. I mean, there's been a working group studying this for a long, long time. I don't think this is coming out of left field.
Phil Lang.
I don't know.
He's the man that's going to do it, Jim.
Right? Yeah, I don't know if
we
it's
love him.
I don't know if it's officially approved or anything, but I think everybody's been looking at the potential for a commuter rail station. So I think this is huge news. I mean, it's bigger than whether the hotels get. I mean, I'm sure it was part of the deal.
Well, let me just say, I'm not going to speak on this definitively until I hear from the Boston City Council. until I find out, or the Cambridge City Council, or the Everett City Council.
That's right.
You know what was another one of their big initiatives? Getting the plastic bags out of the trees. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
That was big. That was huge.
One.
Well, no, we've banned plastic bags in Boston, haven't we?
Oh,
when you go to CVS, you get paper bags now. Game changer, Jim.
How many texts do we have from people listing the accomplishments of the
Do you have any more?
Boston City Council?
I'm looking.
Take all your time.
Okay.
Any of them?
I don't.
Oh, we don't have any. What a shock that is.
Oh.
By the way, there's some wonderful people.
Number
I
one,
mean that on the City Council, but that's not the issue. Go ahead.
Somebody wants to irritate you. They
Go
just
ahead.
sent me that thing. Oh, every neighborhood in Boston has a liaison assigned to it. They show up at all community meetings. There you go. That's
good.
one.
By the way, anonymous texter says, Jim is like Elon under Doge. Tell me 5 things you did last week to justify your existence. That's a fair criticism.
www.boston.gov/departments/neighborhood services. There you go. That's where you get the get all the stuff done for your neighborhood. Anyway, okay, so I'm a big fan of your podcast, Say More, and you just had a recent podcast. You also did a story about this, or somebody did, about people that find courage in these really scary situations, or people that find the courage, like Frances Haugen, the one that blew the whistle on Facebook. And testified at the risk of her career, or the guy that stood up in the Monterey Park shooting at that dance club and tackled the guy that came with a long gun had already murdered, like, I think 9 people or something.
That's right.
So
The Australia guy, right?
Yeah,
That's right.
well, he wasn't in the book, but that was
No, I know, but I mean,
yeah, the Australia guy did that too. We saw that on video where he tackled the shooter. So I've always been curious about that. What do we have a consensus, or is it different situation, different deal?
Right. So I had a chance to interview Ranjay Gulati, who's a Harvard Business School professor, and he wrote a book that was out late last year about how to be bold. And he spent a lot of time interviewing people who've been courageous, and because all of us are just wondering, are you just born with it, or can it be learned? And his big conclusion is it can be learned. Absolutely can be learned. I mean, we think that we all have the courage within ourselves, and we just have to tap into it. And his book comes out at a very important time, because we live in these uncertain times, and a lot of us are scared. But he's like, uncertain times required bold leadership. And he talks about that a lot in his book, and he talks about how sometimes, like Brandon say, the Monterey Park,
the ballroom dancing,
and he went and interviewed him a few weeks after the shooting, and he was saying that Brandon and his friends has actually talked about this. It's like, if there was a mass shooter, how would I react? And Brandon was as a pacifist, he's like, I would definitely run and hide. But in that moment, he's at his grandparents' dance studio. He knew all the people there, and he saw this person shooting everybody. In that moment, he's like, I can't do nothing. I have to do something. So that's when he went and confronted the shooter. And Ranjay shares that story because that shows you think you're one way, but in that moment, you can actually change your story and change your narrative and do.
So was it just instinct?
It wasn't instinct for him, because remember, his instinct was to hide.
Right, but in the moment, his instinct was to act.
And so he's like, everyone can. So that's like, even if you think of yourself, it's like, I'm not that person. You can be.
Yeah.
How about what's his explanation for the most powerful men in the world not having any boldness? I mean this, and totally capitulating to Donald Trump. And as Marjorie said, even if they lost, they'd only have more than everybody else in the world at the end of the loss. Why were those who have the infrastructure to be bold choose cowardice and surrender?
Well, I guess his book talked about the people who chose it.
Okay.
Yeah, different
and
thing, Jim.
For example, he talks about Frances
Haugen.
And
she's a blonde-haired woman, about 35 or something.
And one of his former students, too.
Yeah, that's great.
At Harvard Business School. So he interviewed her, too. And Frances did not come in thinking, I'm going to go, I'm going to be a whistleblower.
She spoke before Congress, remember?
Oh,
she did afterwards. But he thought that the reason why she was able to be courageous because she had a village around her. She had a lot of support. Her mom, championed, her mom said, like, you can do this. She confided in, I think a priest at the time. She had talked to lawyers, and so she talked to journalists. I think she was working with the Wall Street Journal, so she almost had like a village of
people.
supporters, and so she felt bold. That made her feel bold. I can do this. I can blow the whistle on Facebook, one of the most powerful companies in the world.
Can you tell Galati, this, by the way, your podcast was great. So he's talking about how ordinary people become extraordinary and bold. The next one's got to be how people who have no reason not to be bold.
That's right.
Choose. I'm serious.
No,
Most
that's
powerful
right.
Like
people in the
Republicans
world.
in Congress.
Right.
And
That's right.
every
No,
one of
that's
these
right.
tech bros who are
That's
bowing
right.
down at the knee of King Trump.
That is a really good point.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's
Well, you know, it
what got
belies
us
that,
in this
that the
mess.
thing you always hear about. The wonderful thing about money is money buys you freedom.
Right.
You can do what you want. You have the freedom to tell people to drop dead if you want to.
Right.
And that has all been belied by the tech bros and Trump.
Right.
Because they're just on bended knee as much as
That's
anybody,
right.
most of
That's
them
right.
anyway.
That's right.
What do you
Okay,
think about that?
wait.
What?
We just got an email I did
Breaking
from
news?
Ben Weber. Do you know who he is?
No.
He's a city councilor
He's a
from
city
JP.
councilor.
From JP.
There we go.
All
He
right,
says,
let's see.
Councilor Weber writes, listening to the show, and I'm arranging a field trip with my 12 colleagues to your house, Jim. Hard to say what the 5 most significant things the council's done recently are, but speaking for myself as Councilor Weber, who we've met, by the way, you got into a little tiff about teachers' unions with Councilor Weber.
Oh, I did?
Yeah, right after he was
He's
elected.
a supporter of White Stadium.
Right. I proposed and then led the veto override for a budget amendment to fund the Access to Counsel pilot program to provide attorneys to anyone with a kid in school in Boston who gets an eviction notice and is in housing court. $300,000 pilot we expanded with the mayor's approval to $450,000. I say to Councilor Weber, that's one. I need 4 more.
Well, he'll be at your home tonight.
Councilor Weber, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Him and his 12 colleagues will be at your home tonight.
That's pretty good.
Let's call WBZ, Channel 5, Channel 7, have them all over there taking pictures of you, Jim.
Hey, Shirley, it's great to see you.
Good to
Take
see you.
care.
We've been speaking with Shirley Leung, Boston Globe business columnist, host of the Say More podcast. Congratulations, by the way.
It is
another year,
great.
a great
It really is
podcast.
great.
You can get it wherever you get your podcast. Coming up after this quick break, we have just enough time left, I should say, for our incredible, unprecedented 2 more things segment. He's Jim Browdy, I'm Marjorie Egan. This is BPR and GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
This year, the world celebrates a milestone anniversary.
30 years on the air for the world.
This is The World. I'm Eddie Mayer in London with Tony Khan in Boston.
It's hard to believe, especially when I think about what has transpired in the world since 1996.
I've always seen this as our mission, to connect people who might be thousands of miles apart.
Thank you for listening, and happy birthday to the world. Listen weekdays at 3 on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Babson College, where you can advance your career with an MBA or specialized master's at the school ranked #2 best college in the United States by the Wall Street Journal 2025. Babson.edu/grad programs. And CrowdStreet, a platform providing individual investors direct access to private equity, private credit, and real estate. Learn more at crowdstreet.com.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Since we forgot to find something else to shove into this time slot today, we're going to do once again 2 more things. Marjorie's favorite segment. Marjorie, take it away.
Well, you know how you've gone to a concert or a show or a musical particularly, and people around you, you're trying to listen to the musical, and people around you are singing along, and you can't hear the actual actors because the people are singing. Well, this man seeing a performance of Mamma Mia got fed up and sort of took things into his own hands. So here's a clip from a viral video taken just a few days ago of this man screaming during intermission at this Mamma Mia Broadway audience, complaining about people sitting behind him being too loud and obnoxious during the performance.
I need a security over here now. Because these ladies and this whole section's gonna vouch for it. You wanna make a scene? I'm gonna make a scene. Mess with my teenage nieces again. I need security right here. Because this whole section knows they've been loud and obnoxious. Now they want to use profanity in front of my nieces.
Love this guy.
Okay, he may have gone a little crazy, but I think he was speaking for a lot of us who, you want to remind people that Broadway shows are not a sing-along, that the people you want to hear singing are the talented people, not you and your kids or your spouse or whatever sitting behind them.
Can I tell a story about a variation on a theme?
Yep.
You were there for this. Many years ago, we were at our prior radio station. We took a bunch of listeners. It was a contest or something to see Springsteen.
Oh, yeah.
Acoustically. It was just Springsteen at the piano at the DCU Center. Is that what it was called?
Worcester, yep.
Okay. In the middle of the thing, this is not an exaggeration, in the middle of the thing, Springsteen's spectacular. And again, it's beautiful because it's just him and a piano. He stops playing the piano. He looks at a guy who's sitting about 2 rows behind us, and he says directly to the guy, he says, "You are driving me out of my effing mind." The guy was clapping
off beat.
Off beat.
It's supposed to be like this, and the guy's like every half beat. It was driving everybody crazy.
And Springsteen said, when I start singing again, this is a paraphrase, this part of it, he said, you pay attention to the person left of you when they're clapping, person right when they're clapping, do what they do when they do it.
That was pretty good.
So I'm with this guy and whatever. By the way, what my thing was going to be today, which I'll put off till tomorrow, you know how many ballot questions are going to be potentially on 2026?
I do not, Jim.
Well, yeah, don't make fun of this. 11 policy issues for the voters to decide.
11.
Because, as Bill Galvin says, because of the inaction of the legislature. I'm going to list all 11 for people tomorrow and talk about what a legislative mess we're in.
You know, there are some things you get stuck on, like city councils and ballot questions. I don't know, Jim.
Do you care about enough revenue for the state?
Do you
care about housing? Do you care about transparency? All these questions are on the ballot.
Okay, we are out of time.
Tomorrow.
Coming up, we're going to talk with 3 people who tried to deliver care packages to the ICE facility in Burlington, Mass. And they were arrested. This is, we're going to, I don't have time to do the rest. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, live from the BPL, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're going to talk to these folks who went to the Burlington ICE facility up next.
It's because of listener support that we're able to bring you trusted news from NPR. Your gift can also be doubled thanks to our Matching Gifts program. To find out more, go online to gbh.org/matchinggifts.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And PNC Bank, who believes when you pay attention to the details, amazing things can happen. Like when you check the pockets of a jacket you haven't worn since last fall and find $20. PNC Bank. Brilliantly boring since 1865. And Bryant University, ranked 5th in the nation for internships and recruiter demand by LinkedIn's 2025 Top Colleagues list. Committed to preparing students to be day one ready for success. Learn more at bryant.edu.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browder, head on Hour 3 of BPR Live from the Boston Public Library. 4 people were arrested last month for delivering care packages, food, bedrolls, menstrual products, to detainees at the ICE processing center in Burlington. Several were arrested in September as well. We'll speak with 3 of those activists about their arrests and why they're standing up to the Trump's deportation juggernaut.
I'm Marjorie Egan, then something lighter and seasonal. It's officially time to turn on the stovetop and chop some celery. Peak soup season. Which soup do you make to keep warm in the winter? Minestrone, chicken, noodle, lentil, tomato. Or maybe you're more of a stew or chowder person, or do you love something cooler, a la cucumber soup or Jim's beloved gazpacho? All things soups and you on the 3rd hour of BPR, 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
I'm Lakshmi Singh. U.S. officials say they have seized 2 oil tankers linked to Venezuela. One interdiction with the UK's assistance was the Bella 1. It was sailing under a Russian flag and had reached the North Atlantic Ocean between Iceland and Britain. NPR's Quill Lawrence reports U.S. forces had chased that tanker for 2 weeks.
Before the raid that removed the Venezuelan president, a U.S. military pressure campaign included
the American blockade of that country's oil. But one tanker, then called the Bella 1, refused to halt and led the U.S. Coast Guard on a chase thousands of miles across the Atlantic. On the way, it renamed itself and, more importantly, reflagged as a Russian ship. It may have been headed to a Russian port in the Arctic when U.S. forces boarded it. The Department of Homeland Security also announced it seized another tanker in the Caribbean, which is being taken to an American port. President Trump says the U.S. is going to take billions of dollars worth of oil from Venezuela. Quill Lawrence, NPR News.
The U.S. action was conducted days after it arrested the president and first lady of Venezuela to face trial in the U.S. for drug trafficking. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth say they have briefed senators on a process of stabilization, recovery, and transition. Rubio said step one will involve quarantine for Venezuela, a process that'll include selling sanctioned oil and distributing the profits. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt at today's news briefing.
This was the sanctioned oil that was basically just sitting in barrels, sitting on ships because of the effective quarantine of the United States of America. And the interim authorities have agreed to release that oil to the United States, so it will be arriving here at home very soon.
Caroline Leavitt did not back down, meanwhile, from President Trump's interests in Greenland, reiterating that, quote, all options remain on the table, including diplomacy as well as military intervention. In other news, a woman reportedly has been shot during federal immigration enforcement, condition unknown. Posted online, the Department of Homeland Security alleges rioters blocked ICE officers and one person weaponized her vehicle. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has released new dietary guidelines, which is the government's official advice on what Americans should eat to promote good health. Speaking at a press conference today, Kennedy said he's upending the current nutrition guidelines, which recommend limiting meat consumption in favor of fresh fruits and vegetables, and he stressed that protein and healthy fats are essential.
The most significant reset of federal nutrition policy in history. These guidelines replace corporate-driven assumptions with common-sense goals and gold standard scientific integrity. These new guidelines will revolutionize our nation's food culture and make America healthy again.
At last check on Wall Street, the Dow is down nearly 200 points at 49,269. This is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro, and we are looking at breaking news right now, as just mentioned by NPR. A woman in Minneapolis killed in an ICE-involved shooting. She apparently weaponized her car, and she was shot. She was killed. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey calling on U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to restore funding that the National Institutes of Health has cut for clinical trials. Healey says she spoke with Kennedy in October and he claimed that no clinical trials had been disrupted by funding cuts. She says he challenged her to show him evidence to the contrary. Healey sent Kennedy a letter Monday citing a November article published in the journal JAMA Internal Medicine, and that paper found 74,000 clinical study participants have been affected by NIH funding cuts.
My hope is that seeing this information, Secretary Kennedy will be true to his word and restore the funding, as he said he would do.
Healey says the disrupted trials include research on colorectal cancer, strokes, diabetes, depression, pregnancy complications, and osteoporosis. Her letter says 18 clinical trials and 13,000 patients have been affected here in Massachusetts alone. Developers began clearing land on Nantucket this week for the largest and most expensive affordable housing development in the island's history. The Tacoma Green project includes 64 units of 1-, 2-, and 3-bedroom apartments. The Nantucket Current reporting that funding secured in December for the nearly $60 million project. 33 degrees in Boston right now. We're seeing some snow squalls flowing through the area right now. In Framingham, it's snowing like crazy. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Wallace Foundation, an independent, nonpartisan research foundation collaborating with grantees and partners in the arts, school leadership, and youth development. More at wallacefoundation.org. This is NPR.
Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. The Attorney General, Lorea Joy Campbell, is going to be with us January 13th from 11 to noon. And the Mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, will be with us also at the library January 20th from noon to 1. Hello, Jim.
Hey there, Marjorie. Before we introduce our guests, and it's relevant to the topic that we're going to talk to them about, this is NBC News, a little bit of an update from what NPR and Henry shared with you a minute ago. An ICE agent shot and killed a woman in Minneapolis after a group of people began blocking agents during an immigration-related operation. It's according to Kristi Noem's Department of Homeland Security. The woman allegedly, and that's the critical word here for the moment, weaponized her vehicle, attempting to run over our law enforcement officers in an attempt to kill them. That's from the spokesperson of Homeland Security. I have no idea if that's true. I should just say we know a lot of things out of DHS are made up, number one. Number two, people, I hope we're going to spend some time on context here. I saw last night Mayor Fry, I think his name is, from Minneapolis, talking about the Fed sending 2,000 agents to Minneapolis to deal with this. And this that they are going to deal with is this horrible thing that is apparently being done, according to the Trump administration, by Somalis who don't look like Donald Trump. And as Mayor Fry mentioned, it's an infinitesimally small number of people who are the problem. And number two, the vast majority of Somalis who live in that city are Somali Americans. They're citizens of the United States. It's just so. Let's reserve decision on what happened here. All we know for sure is that a woman is dead. In any case, an Immigration and Customs Enforcement field office right here in Burlington, Mass. has been the focus of activists and public officials' ire for months. People held there overnight say the conditions are inhumane, cold concrete floors, lack of proper medical care. It's all despite a contract agreement with Burlington itself that stipulated that people would not be held there overnight. Here's Milford teen Marcelo Gomes da Silva, who was held at the facility for 6 days last summer, speaking with GBH after his release.
Outside of the cells it was cold, but inside of them it was really hot because there were like 35 men, and we would always like beg them to leave a little gap on the door open. We obviously sleep on concrete, aluminum foil as like our blankets. There was only one toilet. A lot of us were sick. We had no sanitary items or anything like that.
It's not El Salvador, friends. It's Burlington, Massachusetts. We're joined now at the library desk by 3 people who've attempted to deliver care packages, essentially humanitarian aid to people held in the Burlington office. Eric Siegel, Reverend Fred Small, and Natasha Lawton. They've each been charged with trespassing. Some face an additional disturbing the peace charge. Their arrest came at a time when ICE says it's beginning, as we said, 2,000 people in Minneapolis. Eric, Fred, Natasha, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. So let's start with you, Reverend Fred Small. What were you doing up there in Burlington?
We were attempting to deliver humanitarian aid, food, clothing, toiletries, including menstrual products that have been denied to women detainees. It was the height of the holiday season, 9 days before Christmas, second day of Hanukkah. We were joining a centuries-old tradition of sharing abundance and visiting our neighbors.
Sitting outside the door?
Well, we sat when we were denied permission to deliver the care packages, and we were hoping that we would be admitted.
I'm going to skip over you, Natasha, because your encounter was in September. I want to stay with this one here. You were there as well. What was the response of people from ICE in Burlington?
They did not allow us to bring the care packages in. They came out and they immediately said, "Forget it. You're not bringing this stuff in."
And did they call the cops?
They called the cops.
And what happened then?
The police came and they asked us to leave. We were not going to leave. I mean, this was something that was important to us. I've known people who've been in there. The conditions are terrible. We really wanted to get in there and provide some aid for them.
You had a similar experience a few months earlier, Natasha. Anastasia, tell us about what happened with you and your colleagues.
We did, yeah. So my friends Nathan and Eleanor and I had been reading, the same information that you shared with growing horror, and the solution seemed really simple, that if people are being denied food and the institution isn't going to alleviate the problem, we would do it for them. And so we brought food. We focused on food, That's kind of a personal way that I show care, as many of us do. And we brought it up to the door, the outside door, where the public goes in and out. And we asked to be able to deliver the food to people who were in there. And we were met with pretty strong anger, some physical violence.
What do you mean physical violence?
One of the ICE agents attempted to physically move me from my sitting position to try and drag me across the parking lot. They kept repeating that they weren't going to allow outside food in. We kept repeating that we would be happily on our way once we were allowed to do what we came there to do. And that back and forth continued.
You know, we talk a lot about what people who are upset about these ICE detentions and ICE deportations should be doing. You are doing something. You're a reverend. I guess you're supposed to be doing something. But I mean, why? I mean, you don't see necessarily a lot of reverends up there, a lot of priests up there, men of the cloth up there, women of the cloth.
Well, I'm personally inspired certainly by Matthew 25:35, where Jesus enjoins us to welcome the stranger, visit the prisoner, feed the hungry. That's what we were trying to do on December 16. But I would push back a little bit on, certainly all of us can be doing more, but there is a very strong faith resistance to this persecution of migrants. U.S. Catholic bishops, of course, very strong statement on that. Mass Council of Churches held a Christmas Eve service outside the Burlington headquarters. Unitarian Universalist Association, Buddhist Coalition for Democracy, all of these are making a high priority of immigrant justice.
Then we had the pastor in Dedham, who, if people don't remember this, the nativity scene in front of the church, he removed the Mary and Joseph. Jesus wasn't there yet because it wasn't Christmas, but it was Mary and Joseph removed them and said, ICE was here. Yeah. And it was surprising, though, that the Archbishop of Boston, Richard Henning, who was the first bishop in that ad, was upset about that. What did you think of that?
Well, as a Unitarian Universalist, I don't try to plumb the intricacies of Catholic diversity. But I think it's impossible to be not only a good Christian, but a person of faith and not be outraged at the cruelty, the reign of terror that is being waged against migrants.
You know, Nastasi, I have to say, I don't think you need to be a person of faith to be outraged by what's happening. I know, and I didn't suggest you were intimating otherwise. I want to ask the same question Marjorie asked. Why do you do what you do? But a question you probably won't want to answer because all three of you seem to be too kind. Why aren't there, we had this discussion at the top of the show yesterday, why we listed everything that happened in 1 week under Trump. ICE was just one of the abominations. You could do the list yourself. Why do you do what you do, and why did you do what you did, and why aren't more people doing the same thing in your estimation? What are they missing?
Well, I did what I did personally because I'm a mom, and I'm used to just doing the thing that needs to be done. There were people who needed food. I have food. That's I can bring it to them. I agree with Fred that there are a lot of subtle ways that people are pushing back. Ones that are visible, ones that are not as visible. But I also think that it can get extremely overwhelming. As you said, you listed all of the things that happened in 1 week. ICE was only one of them. It can be really easy to feel like anything I do is going to be way too small. It's not going to have a big enough impact. And that tends to be a barrier to people to start trying. And so one of the our primary goal, of course, was to stop the imminent harm that was happening to the people inside that facility. But part of this was also an outstretched hand to anybody who's feeling stuck, who's feeling horrified at what's going on, to say that even the small things are something that we can do.
Eric, you want to answer the same questions?
Yeah, there actually is an awful lot happening. I mean, perhaps we don't always see it, but there are boycotts. Before Christmas, for the 12 days before Christmas, there were demonstrations every single day at the ICE office. And, there was a Velo Airlines. It was an airline that was one of the instrumental airlines in deporting people.
Yeah.
There was a boycott, and they've had to shut down half the airline. So we've had a big impact. And some other activists and I actually put out a Substack called Don't Mourn, Organize Eastern Mass. And we list the most effective things that are happening.
What's it called again?
It's called Don't Mourn, Organize.
Don't Mourn, Organize.
Eastern
okay.
Mass.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, some people would say that we in the media are not covering this well enough. I've talked to Jim Monday nights. I tape Rachel Maddow's show because she is very good at highlighting the protests all around the country. But you think that's part of it? You guys don't get enough coverage? I read you were gone from 4 people to 700 people up there at some points outside the Burlington facility. I'm sure that's not every day, but sometimes.
Well, this is the conundrum for nonviolent protest because, you know, if it bleeds, it leads. People get shot, there's violence, cameras are there in an instant. The constant vigils, the nonviolent protests, that doesn't make the front page if it gets covered at all.
Yeah, by the way, Eric, you in particular said a second ago, you know, lots of things going on. There are lots of things going on, and I hesitate to say this, but I say it every day, so I should say it to you. It's clearly not enough. And so that doesn't mean that what you do is not spectacular. If we weren't having great admiration for what the three of you and your colleagues did, we wouldn't have had you here. But it's obviously not enough because the steamroller is rolling over everybody, not just people who they claim are don't belong in this country. So, Natasha, starting with you, how do you build this in a way that it has enough critical mass that some of these horrible things can get stopped? And again, I'm not belittling the small victories there. Sure. That's how you build. I know how important they are. How do we get the big victories in your estimation?
Well, I think one of the ways is helping each other find the thing that is resonant enough with us that we can continue doing it without having to rely on it immediately. Things that are meaningful to us, that give us energy, that help us build community, that incorporate the things that are important to us, we can keep doing those things and we can invite more people to do those things.
What propels you? What's the thing that is at the core of your activism?
Yeah, I think the care work, the care of delivering food to somebody who is being denied food is what really compels me.
Eric, what was it like to get arrested? Was it scary, or was it they realized that you were nonviolent folks just protesting in the Great American Way, or you get thrown in the cell, or what happened?
It was not particularly scary. The Burlington police, at least to me, they were respectful to me. Uh-huh. And you know, we had an opportunity to talk to them about why we were there. We were, you know, the Burlington police station has been replaced and it's kind of in a temporary office now, so we were in cars for a long time. And we got to talk to them about our story, and I told my officer about somebody I knew, a Haitian man named Enrique, who came here completely legally, you know, under a Biden-era program, filled out all the forms correctly, did everything, was never arrested, and he worked in the construction industry. And while he was working, through a stroke of the pen, President Trump kind of erased his status.
Yeah.
He came home and he got arrested in front of his 2-year-old and his 7-year-old.
Oh my God.
And you know, what good came out of that? We lost this good law-abiding construction worker, and you know, now he's being sent back to Haiti.
Yeah, we should talk about some of the conditions a little bit more. We mentioned that the deal that was struck with Burlington to allow this to begin, the town of Burlington? Yes. To begin with, said to be no overnight detentions there. There have been, obviously, in great numbers. And Zoe, our colleague, was on the phone this morning with the chair of the select board up there, Mike Espejo, who's talked about how they, quote, exhausted all their efforts at the local level. They went to court. And they were thrown out of court because the affidavits they had about the conditions inside were considered to be outdated, according to the chair of the select board there. And they're doing everything else, apparently reaching out to state and other kinds of leaders to try to get this handled. But I wasn't exaggerating. When we just played that little sound about from De Silva about what the conditions were in there, they're exactly what are described in that the worst prison one of the worst in the world in El Salvador. 35 people in one room, yep. One toilet, sleeping on concrete. They, at least in El Salvador, had, those little cots, aluminum foil for blankets. What else?
They talked about how, because no one could get washed, he said there were no sanitary things. I don't know if he was talking about toothbrushes or soap or whatever he was talking about, but he was talking about that after having been there for a few days, the place kind of stunk because it was 35 people sweating next to each other, not being able. You thought to yourself, what is wrong if there's 35 men held in this one place? What's wrong if somebody has to use the John to say, okay, we'll walk you down the hallway and there's another bathroom down here? I mean, it seems like the point is cruelty and humiliation.
Exactly. I think cruelty is the point.
Yeah.
I used the phrase reign of terror before. This is a campaign of intimidation. It is lawless, and we're supposed to be cowed into submission.
And our congressional representatives, according to the law establishing ICE, they can go into that facility at any time with no notice.
Have they?
Well, except ICE said, you have to give us a week's notice. And they're kind of cooperating.
Yeah, to my knowledge, there have been no unannounced inspections.
That's one
thing
that would make a big difference.
To clean things up.
Yeah, well, I know. And Moulton, I think Markey other people have been there too. I think they probably have been there at least two. But you're right. If they get a week to clean things up, it doesn't really matter. What's your sense from people that you know or people that have seen you? I mean, are people? I don't know if they're even close. I don't know physically if they could honk at you or whatever. I know in Coolidge Corner, people are always out there protesting one thing or another, and people honk or don't honk. I mean, what's your sense of support?
Well, in September, there was a group of protesters unrelated, and I learned later, I didn't know this at the time, but as we were being escorted to police cars, they started singing to us.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, there's been a lot of solidarity. It's really an ecosystem of resistance that the bearing witness folks that you mentioned who show up, going from 4 people in the spring to now 700 weekly. There's a different group that stands out. They bear witness. They bring comfort to the folks who are going in and out for their appointments because that's a terrifying experience as well. So there's a lot of folks doing a lot of different things that are really supportive.
There's a ton of support. I play bridge in a bridge club. And, this is not in the normal constituency that you would think of. But when I go into that bridge club, everybody's, people are high-fiving me and congratulating me. Absolutely.
Bridge players are really radical, Eric. By the way, we have 2 texters who are asking the same question. Is your guest, the Reverend Fred Small, also the wonderful folk singer-songwriter? If so, kudos to him for all that he does and his beautiful music. For example, Heart of the Appaloosa, I Will Stand Fast, etc. In any case, thank you, Fred. In fact, that would be you would be that person. Is that not correct?
I'm embarrassed by the compliments, but yes, I am he.
And you're affiliated with the Arlington Street Church right down the street, right?
That's right.
Yeah, which does all sorts of great stuff. They're always doing something at the Arlington Street Church, protesting something, right?
Yes.
Can we get back to my negativity for a second? Because you all are so, I want you to disabuse me. I looked up the latest poll I could find today, because we keep saying on the air every day that even on something that matter a lot to people who voted for Trump, he's losing a lot of steam on the deportations. I look up this poll. 53% say he's gone too far. Well, you might say that's good. It's not 36% say it's too much, so it's 53 to 36, which is big, but 10% say he's not being tough enough. So essentially, 53 to 46 of your neighbors and ours, only 53 to 46 think that he's doing too much. 46% of the people in this country think that tearing a Remesa from, I know that inspired you, Ozturk in Somerville off the streets by masked people where she had no idea if she's being kidnapped, what was going to happen to her. I assume they think that's okay. What's wrong with the 46% who don't get this?
I think they're not seeing it. When I talk to people from around the country, our experience is different. And when you see it firsthand, when your neighbors are picked up, when your friends are picked up, suddenly you're not subject to kind of the Fox News view of the world. You're seeing the real world, and you're seeing real people with kids who know your kids. Those are the people being picked up.
Well, that's one of my big theories. People live in 2 bubbles. They even live in the factual bubble, or they live in the misinformation baloney bubble.
So if you got an audience, Nastasia, for the 46% with whom I am obsessed, what do you say to them? To move them?
Yeah. You know, I think...
Well, any of you. Yeah, I mean, you start, and then you can all weigh in. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, I think there's no one magic thing that we can say to change people's minds, but we can continue to show up over and over and over again, and we can continue to refuse to consent to what's happening, and we can do that visibly, and we can do that boldly and with principle, and we can build bridges.
Do you three have experiences of converting someone on this issue that you care
His
deeply
bridge
about?
club.
Well,
Bridge
but they were there. No, I'm serious. Do you know? Is there somebody either in a congregation or in a neighborhood with whom you've spoken or who's understood your experience, who has said, "I really didn't get"? You have, Eric. You're nodding. So tell us.
Yeah, a neighbor of ours down the street who was in the Navy. He and I probably didn't agree with lots of things politically, but he had some personal experiences with Haitians, and he came around and talked to us, and it was a whole different conversation.
Well, you know what? It's interesting you say that. I've mentioned this about 10,000 times on the show, so I'll mention it once more. Many, many years ago, when there was much less tolerance for LGBTQ people, Sue O'Connell was on our show, and we cited a New York Times poll where somewhere like 37% of America supported same-sex marriage, and the 37% was almost totally made up of young people and people who said they knew an LGBTQ person. And obviously the number's like 70% now, and I think it's because people, now they realize their neighbor is a lesbian, their neighbor is a trans person, they love their neighbor. And Eric, it seems to me, you mentioned the Haitian experience, he's flipped because he knew people who were affected. So it seems that is the goal, storytelling and realizing that person's taking care of your mother or whatever the hell it is that gets you there.
Fred Small, if people want to join you up in Burlington, is there a website or there's a time every week that you go, or what's the deal?
Well, first of all, we should acknowledge the wonderful work of Bearing Witness, which has a Wednesday vigil every Wednesday outside of Burlington ICE. And we have a Facebook page. Eric, what's the...
Facebook group called it's Mass AIJ. It stands for Massachusetts Action for Immigrant Justice. So Mass AIJ in Facebook.
I know we're running short of time, so I want to acknowledge in the audience two of our fellow arrestees, Roger Rosen and Zabina von Meering.
Well, who's the second person?
In the polar bear costume.
Oh my gosh!
Those are my favorites, by the way.
No,
You're looking
that
fabulous.
would be good for sitting out
You're
the sidewalk
really
today. That would.
So, Fred, what are you going to sing before we're done here? You decided what number you're going to perform?
Oh my goodness, I'm thinking that's a rhetorical question. So
we really admire all three of you and your colleagues here and your colleagues in Burlington for standing for something.
Thank you for having me.
And I just want to be clear, Bearing Witnesses, if people go online, look for Bearing Witness, they'll find it.
Yes.
Okay, and on Facebook, it's Mass
AIJ.
Okay, so after MASS AIJ.
And don't mourn organized Eastern Mass. All those things, check them out, and thanks to all three of you. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for doing what you're doing and for coming in and talking to us about it. I appreciate it. We've been speaking with Nastasia, I hope I said that right, Nastasia Lawton, Eric Siegel, and the Reverend Fred Small, singer-songwriter as well. They have each been arrested trying to deliver food and aid and simple sanitary products to people held in Burlington's ICE field office. They've not been able to bring those supplies
so
in,
far.
but they are trying. Thank you again for coming today. Coming up after this quick break, another awkward moment here at Boston Public Radio.
It is an awkward moment.
We're going to open the lines this midweek slide for a conversation about soup season, the warm, hearty, nourishing bowls that get you through the darkest days. The Globe has a soup club, and Jim and I are joining the soup club. I'm going to tell you all about that. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR at 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Arun Roth. Today on GBH's All Things Considered, local agencies working with refugees speak out about the challenges they're facing under the Trump administration. And Venezuelans in our community grapple with what Nicolas Maduro's capture could mean for democracy and socialism. GBH's Tori Bedford joins us with reactions from Venezuela and beyond. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Bryant University, ranked 5th in the nation for internships and recruiter demand by LinkedIn's 2025 Top Colleagues list. Committed to preparing students to be day one ready for success. Learn more at bryant.edu. And the Massachusetts Teachers Association, working together to ensure that all students have the resources they need to succeed. The MTA, over 180 years of commitment to the public schools and colleges our communities deserve. massteacher.org.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Okay, so we get a lot of criticism from you guys saying all we do is depress you.
We do.
For 3 hours every day. Well, trust me, we depress ourselves. So for the last 25 minutes, we're going to do something really uplifting, talk about soup. For the past few winters, the Boston Globe has published a Soup of the Week Club, a newsletter you can sign up for that promises to deliver fresh soup recipes every week through their cold winter months. Every year, Marjorie and I sign up, and we never get any recipes.
Well, hold on. I don't know if has been running. How long has it been running?
I know last year, you and I signed up. Did you get any recipes?
No.
Neither did I.
I've signed up again this year, though. I'm hoping that by talking about it, maybe I'll actually get a text.
We know the editor of the Globe.
That's right. We'll have to ask him. Every Thursday, so it's get a new recipe.
Okay, I was going to say it's beside the point. It actually isn't. It's a great idea, and we're stealing it today to get your thoughts on your favorite warm, hearty, nourishing bowl of soup that gets you through these dark, cold winter months. We're mostly going to talk about hot soup, even though I've learned to love gazpacho, but that's for another day. Give us a call, 877-301-8970. What does soup do for you? What are your favorite soups and soup recipes? And do you not subscribe to the notion that a great bowl of grandma's like chicken soup can cure virtually anything? 877-301-8970.
And what is it about the idea? When I saw this soup thing, whenever it was, last year, the year before in the Globe, I thought, oh my God, this is great.
Brilliant.
There's something, I want to be the person that's making soup, a big, huge vat of soup in my kitchen, and everybody's going to come over and eat it. And it just makes me feel like a better American or something like that.
Well, it's warm. It smells good. You can see it wafting up to the seriously, in your kitchen. You can eat it for days. It's like a multi-day
You can freeze it.
Experience.
Yeah, that's right.
So we not only, but it's almost erotic in a lot of ways.
It's erotic.
So we would not only want to talk about it is. I mean, it is. There's erotic.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
Well,
an erotic relationship with your soup.
But
which kind of soup is that?
Well, lentil is really
lentil.
A good lentil.
I tell you, it's really sexy.
It is.
You look at those little lentils in the bag and you think, va, va, va,
especially if you have a little kielbasa slice in that baby. Forget about it. You have to go in your own room, finish up. In any case, that wasn't really my point. I'm sorry to get off track. We want to discuss two things. One, what is the soup that really does it for you? And much more spiritually, what does soup as a concept do for you? And I have to say, nobody hates cold weather more than I do.
Yep.
The only plus, and I use the term advisedly, of cold weather is you get to enjoy hot soup more than you would in hot weather. It is really a life-affirming kind of experience.
And of course, there is some etiquette about soup.
What do you mean
by
by
that?
that?
I just had tomato soup from the Newsfeed Cafe.
How was that?
Well, it was delicious.
Oh, good.
But, I was really hungry, and just to spoon it, spoon by spoon, is very frustrating. So I went in the back room there, and I just drank the whole thing down out of the container, which is rather rude.
Did Jared have an etiquette person on the... Somebody had an etiquette person on the other day. One, you're not supposed to drink your soup.
You're not supposed to drink your soup.
There's one exception. And you also know, which is ridiculous, that you're supposed to spoon it away from you. Who spoons? Oh, yes. I knew this since I was a little kid. You're supposed to, when you put the soup, the spoon in the soup, you don't scoop it up in your direction.
Why not?
How the hell do I know? I'm just telling you.
That's ridiculous.
That is the appropriate etiquette.
Yeah, you don't want to slurp the soup.
301-8970.
You don't want to slurp the soup.
I think slurping soup gives it one of the great joys. A little slurp with friends is, I'm serious.
Okay.
Is perfectly fine.
And you know how we talk about Dunkin' Donuts all the time, because this is Dunkin' Donuts land. The dunking of the buttered bread in the soup. It doesn't really just get much better than that.
Nothing.
Or tomato soup with a grilled cheese sandwich.
Unbelievable. This gets back to the eroticism I was talking about.
Okay.
Now, let me can I bring one other soup up? Are you a pea soup fan or you're not?
It's okay. It's not my favorite. I like it.
I can't even have
I
the
like it.
conversation.
It's not okay. There's something about the green flavor that color. That
Well,
sort of
that's
bothers
because
me.
the peas in some instances
That's right.
are
They're
green.
green. I know
By the
that.
way, Sean in the car says, no soup for you. We're going to get to that in a couple
Let's play it. Let's
okay,
play
let's do it right
This
now.
is the classic Seinfeld episode where Elaine ruins the soup Nazi by publishing all his recipes and eventually leading him to flee the country for Argentina. Here it is.
You think you can get soup? Please, you're wasting everyone's time.
I don't want soup. I can make my own soup. 5 cups chopped porcini mushrooms, half a cup of olive oil, 3 pounds celery.
That is my recipe for wild mushroom.
Yeah, that's right. I got them all. Cold cucumber, corn and crab chowder, mulligatawny.
Mulligatawny?
You're through, soup Nazi. No more soup for you.
That was brilliant. 877-301-8970.
Listen to this.
What's that?
Anonymous texter says, funny you mentioned the recipe from the Globe. I signed up for the soup recipes as well and never received a recipe either. I actually forgot I signed up since I never received the recipe. We have to get on top of this.
Who is the soup editor at the Globe?
I don't know who the soup editor. Deborah First is one of the people on the website. She's the great food critic there. Cheryl Julian's also on the website. We have to complain to somebody because you know what? I was so excited to be part of the soup club last year. I was all ready for my first recipe. I had my big
Did you sign up this year yet?
I have signed up,
You have?
ready to go, and nothing. So we get Brian McGrory on next week. He's the boss over there.
Couple of weeks.
Maybe he can do something for us.
Anonymous texter says, Jim is right. Lentils are the most sensual of all legumes. I didn't know they were a legume.
What about the garbanzo bean?
That's chickpeas in soup does not do anything for me. I like chickpeas.
Okay.
But it's not a soup kind of
It's not.
experience. No, not for me.
How about
anyway.
white beans?
I'm okay with white beans.
You think they're sexy too?
Again, with kielbasa. If you
Okay.
have like a kale, white bean, sausage kind of experience, do you like that or you don't like that?
I do.
That does not get your whatever's going?
Yeah. Well, the whole thing was soup. It just makes me feel, I don't know. Whole. Yeah. If you go down to if you're sick and you don't have any soup.
No.
I've gone down to Whole Foods and I just get the broth. You know, you can get the broth out of the big containers, and then you go home. You have 2 huge things of broth. Cost you like $30 for the 2 big things of broth, but they're really good when you have a cold.
Okay.
877-301-8970 is the number. Let's start with Amy in Portsmouth. Hi, Amy.
Hello, Amy.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Excellent.
I have a great recipe for a chicken enchilada soup.
Oh, I love that.
It's great because you use like the leftovers of a rotisserie chicken. Most of the ingredients come in a can. It's cheap, it's warming, it's spicy, it's sexy, makes you feel good, and it lasts for days.
Okay, Amy, can you do a favor for us? Could you email us at bpr@wgbh.org so we too can have that wonderful recipe? I would love that.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank
now,
you.
don't go away. When you say it made you feel good, I
Ooh,
assume
will
you
we
don't
get it?
mean...
Yeah, we'll get
we
it.
do. You don't
Okay.
mean just the taste. You mean the whole experience, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's warming, and you can dip chips in it, have a nice bottle of red wine by the fire. It's like a whole vibe.
That is a perfect first
That's
goal.
what it is.
Amy, thank you.
It's sitting around in a cozy house or kitchen having the soup, the steaming soup. Now, by the way, you just said chickpeas weren't any good in soup.
I don't like them in soup.
Well,
I didn't say they aren't
Betsy
good. They're
in
not good
Jamaica
for me.
Plain says that her 10-year-old has learned how to navigate the New York Times cooking app, which is great, by the way. She has a delicious chickpea and noodle soup that she can cook entirely by herself, and everybody in the family will eat it. How about that, Jim?
Wiltex, that's great. That's good. Wiltex, in Japan, you're supposed to slurp ramen. It's the proper way to eat it. And the louder you slurp, the more delicious.
Really?
It is. Julie from Needham, listening to your show, making French onion soup, another favorite. A fave in the winter, she writes, but tearing up from all the onions. Mark in Rhode Island.
Anonymous texter loves a really good Harriet Heinemann
Okay,
bisque.
no, we're not doing that today. Mark in Rhode Island, you're next on BPR. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Oh, hey, guys. Yes, I have recently started making soup myself over the last couple of years, and my favorite one now is a Colombian lentil dish. And maybe I cook it because I have seasonal depression, and I just like the intentionally cutting the vegetables, the whole process, the warmth. And definitely I am a slurper now because I can fully do that without my eggs in my life.
Wait, I'm going to stay away from that. But you added something to this conversation that is hugely important that we omitted. it's the preparation that is also joyful.
Right.
The chopping of like celery, for example, or carrots is just, it's spectacular. Mark, you nailed it. Thank you very much for the call. We appreciate it.
Mike in North Carolina, tomato soup, grilled cheese sandwich, and a Q-tip in your ear. That's the erotica trifecta for Jim. And Mike says he also
This is not true.
signed up for the soup club and never got a recipe either. But he did get free tickets.
In a moment
to
of seriousness, could one of you call? We have 15 minutes. Can you call the Globe and ask to connect to whoever the editor is for the Soup Club and find out what's going on? And actually, if he or she can join us on the air for like 30 seconds,
Yeah, we're
that'd
all
be
excited
fabulous.
about our recipes. I can't be let down again, Jim.
Now,
you know, they destroyed
Can I
my
tell you
confidence
something?
once. I can't go through it again.
Can I tell you something?
What? I worked there too. I worked there.
Fine.
Didn't matter.
Okay, good. I'm not big on broth. I mean, do you consider broth even
Well,
soup?
if you're sick.
I'm not talking about being sick.
Well,
the
you
only
wanna
time
have-
I can eat broth is with a great matzo ball soup.
Okay, well, that's true. Great matzo ball soup is really
Marvelous
good.
has great
You
matzo
want to
ball
have
soup.
something in it. I think, generally speaking, you want to have in it, like Italian wedding soup. That's really good. There's a great broth in that. You don't
the
like
little
that?
meatballs?
Yeah, what's the matter with that? That's
want a little
great.
meatball.
There's a recipe here for Italian wedding lasagna soup.
Soup?
Yeah, I don't know
That's
how you do that.
ridiculous. Where is that? When you say here, where is that?
This is from the Soups On New York Times cooking
Oh.
app, which we all know and love. It's great. Carol from New Hampshire, thank you for calling.
Hey.
Hello. I thought it's called, but my favorite soup is lentil soup.
Yeah, I think that's
Do you
the
find
winner.
lentils sexy like Jim does, Carol?
No, I don't actually. They don't appeal to me in that way, Mark.
Sorry to hear that. But it's okay.
Yeah,
I do like them in a pot of soup.
Exactly.
But I think a simple, really simple recipe is onion,
Yeah.
celery,
Mm-hmm.
olive oil, chicken broth. I put in some pureed tomato. And my last ingredient is I buy pesto.
Ooh.
And I use about a tablespoon of pesto and plop that in there. And it really is simple and good.
Wow. Wonderful.
And my other favorite recipe is oyster stew.
Oysters.
You have to like oysters, though.
You have to like
well,
oysters.
Marjorie doesn't eat 'em.
I
I
don't,
love
but you do,
oysters.
Jim. So
Hey,
tell Jim. So Carol, tell Jim about your
What's
oyster
the
stew.
secret?
No secret. It's so simple. I get them at the fishmongers.
Yeah.
I buy raw oysters,
Yeah.
bring them home, melt some butter, throw the oysters in there till they're cooked, and the oysters have liquid with them, so
I know that.
just cook those a bit, and then add half and half to it. Done.
Wow. Hey, Carol, thanks for the recommendations. We really appreciate it. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this
You're very
properly.
welcome.
Thank you. Is it pronounced mirepoix? Is that how you say it? Mirepoix Mindfulness is the title of Zoe's memoir. Mirepoix is cut up vegetables, but that's what it is. And a thing. Do you like cutting vegetables?
Yes, I love cutting vegetables.
Do you not find that like a
I do.
zen kind of thing?
You know, I got for a Christmas gift a few years ago a Cuisinart that will cut vegetables.
No.
But I don't like to
No.
do it in there. They come out better when you do it yourself. They're more even.
Do you want to use for the second time the other day that I never, I had only used once. and-
Vegematic?
No. What's that thing called that slices vegetables the exact same?
Potato
No, what's
cutter?
that thing called? Do you know what that thing is? What's it called? Thank you very much. Joyce
Mandolin?
Kohaywick is not just a one-trick pony. It's called a mandolin. And the problem is, the first thing they tell you on the instructions is don't slice the vegetable without the guard. And I said, I don't need the guard. I literally almost cut off my finger. It's the sharpest blade ever. The other day I didn't. It's beautiful. Also for a soup, by the way, sliced carrots like paper thin kind of
Really?
thing. Yeah, so even though
So
that's
it's better
a machine.
than a potato peeler?
No, it's to slice the damn thing. It's not to
Oh,
peel
to
the
slice
thing.
them.
Slice
Oh,
the thing.
okay.
I know. I mean, this is
I
like
thought you said you
upsetting
liked to chop them.
No, but this is a hand thing. It's not
Oh.
a machine. I do
Okay.
like
All right.
chopping. By the way, chopping, the problem with celery, and another reason I like soup, how many times have you bought celery and then thrown away the whole, like 90% of the thing because you didn't use it?
Well, it's distressing. Unless you like to put peanut butter in the celery, which I really don't.
No, I mean, that's...
You do waste ingredients. That's why you have to make huge batches. And then you don't
You can
feel so-
freeze most soups, you
You
know,
can
too.
freeze most soups. Well, this was this thing was talking. This is from eatingwell.com. It's talking about a big batch of soup on Sunday will give you an entire week of easy lunches, and most of the time you can freeze all the soups.
When's the last? You know that I cook every Sunday for the whole week. When was the last time you made a huge batch of soup on a Sunday?
Well, I didn't know if I made it on a Sunday.
Whatever
I made a big batch of lentil stew and brought it up to my daughter's family. How about that, Jim? There you go.
That's actually quite fabulous.
Isn't
I
that
believe
nice?
we are talking.
Oh, we're talking to the
to the soup. Well, no, we're not talking. I think Jamie is
he's
talking to the soup
Okay, sorry.
editor.
We're finding out why no one can get a subscription.
Not no one. We shouldn't say no one.
Okay.
A couple of us didn't get our newsletter. Is he going to talk to us, or he's not?
I don't know.
She,
Ezra
I'm
from
sorry,
Rhode
she's
Island.
going to talk to us in a second.
Okay, Ezra from Rhode Island. Hi, Ezra.
Hey.
Hi.
So, I love noodle soup, I could eat noodle soup every day. And I think ramen is like kind of the obvious big, bold flavor one sometimes, but I think my heart really lies with pho. And, it's a little lighter. It's deceptively simple, really there's all this complex, slowly built flavor. It's really incredible. I think growing up in Boston, Vietnamese friends introduced me to it, and there's so many great places to eat in Boston. My wife's been working on a pho recipe for about 10 years, pretty dialed in. And I flew to Vietnam and kind of just ate pho for a couple of weeks, and I would highly recommend that too.
Okay, Ezra, when you say noodle soup, what else is in it? And what kind of noodles?
So I guess with pho, it's rice noodles, and there's different types of pho. But the real traditional one is either like a beef broth or a chicken broth.
Okay.
And then there's onions and cilantro and scallions, and then you garnish with that like king basil and bean sprouts and either thin sliced beef, meatballs, chicken pho. So yeah.
Boy, let me tell you something. You describe it as almost like we're eating it. Ezra, that was a beautiful phone call. Thank you. Can I ruin the mood for 10 seconds? Since we were talking in the last segment about the killing of a woman who allegedly weaponized her vehicle in Minneapolis, the comment from the mayor of Minneapolis, who I found to be very impressive last night, he's speaking now on CNN, said that ICE should get the F out of town, and he also said the DHS, Homeland Security claim of self-defense is BS. So there you are. Back to soup. Now, earlier in the day, we say we're big fans of the Boston Globe.
We are.
But Marjorie and I had to be honest. We leveled a complaint because last year, with great excitement,
anticipation,
we both signed up
quivering
for the Soup of the Week newsletter in the Boston Globe. And we didn't realize until
says something rather pathetic
this
about
morning,
us.
when next year's Soup of the Week newsletter was available, we both looked at each other and I said, "Did you ever get the newsletter?
No.
Did you ever get the newsletter?"
No.
Well, we went right to the top. We're about to speak to the assistant managing editor for Living Arts at the Globe, and much more importantly, the Winter Soup Club editor. That'd be Chris Morris. Chris, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
So, how do you defend what happened to both of us?
I signed up this morning, Chris, again, and I'm hoping you can come through for me.
What happened?
Can I get the recipes? It's Thursday's the first one.
What happened?
Absolutely. I have no idea. The open rate was pretty high last year, so I don't know. Maybe there was just a fluke. But if you have that problem again this year, just email me and I'll rectify it. But we always run print the next week, so you can always buy a print paper too. But we will fix it. Just email me. We'll fix
Chris,
it if you don't get it.
I am guessing there was huge competition to be the Winter Soup Club editor inside the Boston Globe. How did you prevail?
I mean, I created it with a bunch of people, so like we're the originators.
And what's your soup connection? Do you love it as much as we? Obviously, you do. You love
I
soup.
do. I'm actually sitting here in front of my lunch, which is a cup of soup from Zoe's, lemon, which is my favorite.
That's great.
When I got the phone call, so I am a big soup fan. I had it last night for dinner too.
So for people who are unaware of the Soup of the Week Club from the Boston Globe, and now have a commitment from the editor in charge that all requests will be honored. If people don't have it in front of them, how do they sign up for this thing, Chris Morris?
You can go to Winter Soup Club or globe.com/Winter Soup Club, and it will bring you to the webpage, and you can just enter your email, and it will go. You'll immediately be signed up. Or you can just look at today's paper, and there's a QR code on page 2 of the food section, and that'll take you to the webpage, and you can just enter your email. You could also just email me, and I'll sign you up. I am like personal service. It's Christine.morris@globe.com.
Chris.morris, CHRIS.morris@globe.com.
I'm signed up already. I am signed up. But the one last thing, Chris, do you think it's odd that Jim and I had this level of attachment and upset over the fact that we signed up for the soup club?
That's a good question.
I'm really sad.
Yeah, and I think
forward them all to you.
Yeah, are we over attached to soup? There may be something emotionally missing.
No, I don't think so.
For me and Jim, that we're this distraught.
Soup is so cozy, and you do feel an emotional attachment to it because it does make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
It does.
No, I totally get it.
Do you have a favorite soup?
I do. I'm a big fan of, my husband's a really good cook, and, he makes a very good, kind of spicy, peppery chicken noodle soup that I love, and I know that sounds very basic, but,
chicken noodle's the best. The best.
Yeah, it's very good, and if you use, like, the ground chicken, it's actually delicious. It's a New York Times recipe. I like it a lot.
Well, let me just tell you, Chris, I was really happy to get your email. I don't really want yours. I want his. What's his email? Kidding. Hey, Chris Morris, go back to your soup. We are thrilled. Chris is the assistant managing editor for Living Arts at the Globe and the Winter Soup Club editor. You can sign up. You can go to the QR code, page 2 of the food section today, or go to the Globe website itself, or go to chris.morris@globe.com. Chris,
thank you.
Great to meet you. Thanks so much for calling.
Congratulations for having such a wonderful job.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It'll kick off on the 22nd. That'll be the first day of the Winter Soup Club, and we have a very special writer this year. So I'm very excited about this.
Whoa. Who's the very special writer?
Well, I haven't announced it yet, so I can't. But I'll announce it soon, but it's going to be exciting.
Let me just say one last thing. Even though you're so nice, I feel I have to say this. If we don't get the recipes this year, we're picketing your house. So
no, that's totally understandable.
Okay, it's understandable. Okay,
yep.
Chris, thanks. We really appreciate it. Chris Morris at the Boston Globe. How much would you love? I'm serious.
Her
about
job
this, to be the soup editor. I mean, she does. Obviously, she's deputy editor at Living Arts and whatever. But how much would you love to be the soup editor?
I think
how much would you love to tell your friends?
I think it would be like a brain-changing situation for you, Jim, if you could become the soup editor.
Can I tell you,
of the Boston
if they
Globe.
said, well, obviously I don't work alone. What if they said he is the Hebrew National Salami and soup editor for GBH Radio?
There you go.
Can you imagine?
There you go.
I don't ask much. A little tiny something to my title. We have time for one more. Jay in the car.
Hi,
Jay,
Jay.
what's your deal?
Hi, how you doing?
We're excellent. Excellent.
Good. I'm thrilled about this subject of soup.
It's important.
Especially this time of year.
Especially.
My favorite thing to do is, whether I'm making chili or a soup, I put on some of my favorite music, like Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
And you know what else? One of my favorite soups is stuffed pepper soup.
Salt and pepper soup?
You ever have that?
No.
What else?
Everything that goes into a stuffed pepper, you make it into a soup.
Oh, that sounds great.
That's fabulous.
Oh, Jay. Thank you.
Hey, Jay, we got to
for
go.
the call.
That was excellent. Before we go,
I think Bruce Springsteen is a big pea soup guy.
Well, we're actually not allowed to play him because the lawyers got upset with us last time we did. We have to play before we say hi to Jared. The best soup clip, even better than the Soup Nazi. Here's Jennifer Coolidge, Massachusetts native, in the 2000 movie Best in Show, one of Marjorie and my favorite, sharing how much she and her much older partner have and don't have in common.
Yeah, we both have so much in common. We both love soup, and we love the outdoors. We love snow peas, and talking and not talking. We could not talk or talk forever and still find things to not talk about.
One of the great moments in any
For people
film
that don't
ever.
know, she's there, this blousy blonde, sitting next to this
With
guy
this
that looks like
comatose
he's
9-year-old
105 years old, and he may have been, taken out of the grave. And there.
What's your favorite soup, Jared Bone?
Chicken noodle soup.
Yeah,
Can't
that's
go
basic,
wrong.
but great.
Can't go
well,
wrong.
You can go wrong, but it's great. When it's great, it's great. Okay, what are you doing there?
So Joyce Glahaywick is here.
I saw her. She knew what a mandolin was, and I couldn't remember. Not the instrument, the slicer. She saved me.
I thought there was somebody named Amanda Lynn.
We have a lot of Harriet Hyman text, Jim.
Okay, we're not reading them today. Okay, next.
What's her favorite?
What else is on the show?
Did Jim call Harriet his little lentil?
Okay, fine.
Make it stop.
Well, that's exactly how I feel. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. What were you saying? Who besides Joyce? Now, that's a great thing to have Joyce. What is Joyce talking about?
She's going to be talking about movies because, of course, the Golden Globes are happening this weekend. The Oscar nominations are later this month, so Joyce will have all the rundown of all the things to see.
Can you shut down her computer, please? Really? This is like the most immature behavior.
Harriet makes an incredible shot put ball soup.
Okay.
That's a good one.
It's not funny.
I don't love being shunted aside for Harriet.
What else besides
jokes?
Joyce? Joyce is great.
I'm
What else?
sorry.
So the poet laureate of Salem is here, J.D. Scrimger. He's going to be talking about his new book, Poet in High Street Park.
I Googled him this morning after I heard he was on. Pretty impressive.
30 years in Salem, so he talks about his observations there. No Harriet input there.
No, thank you for that.
And then the artist Alison Crony Moses, who just was named one of the Foster Prize winners at the ICA, is here to talk about her sculpture, which is just gorgeous and sumptuous in wood.
Excellent to see you. We'll be listening 2 o'clock live at the library, the Culture Show with Jared Bowen and friends.
Thank you very much, Jared Bowen. I'm
Thanks,
sorry
Jared.
about the Harriet interruption. I couldn't help myself.
So am I.
Okay, we are done. Keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast, or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow, media critic Margaret Sullivan, former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Affairs Andrew Cabral, Public Safety, I should say,
too.
Amherst College's Elon Stavins, the Common Man for Ukraine co-founders Susan Matheson and Lisa Murray, fresh from their latest visit to help the Ukrainians. Our crew: Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, and Hannah Loss. Our engineer, John LeClaw Parker. Our executive producer is Jenny Bologna, who sends me all those Harriet Heinemann text messages. Special thanks to our BPL staff.
You know what the word puerile means? So immature.
Hey, I don't
Ridiculous.
care. I don't care. I'll be puerile forever. Maddie Guy, Bill Francis, Olivia Corseo, Juan Jose Cadena, our host of the Newsfeed Cafe. Great tomato soup today for lunch and across the street at the Lenox Hotel. Stay tuned for the Culture Show with Jared Bowen, which starts right after we are done here on 89.7 GBH Live from the Boston Public Library. See you later, Jim.
We both love soup.
You're supposed to say I'm Marjorie Egan.
I just said, okay, I was saying see you later, Jim.
Oh,
You
so
missed
see
that.
you later, Marjorie.
Okay, we'll be back tomorrow.
We will.
We hope.
Sadly, for many of you, we will return. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And American Repertory Theater with Wonder, a new musical for the whole family based on the best-selling book and beloved movie. Wonder celebrates the power of choosing kindness. Tickets at amrep.org. When an academic is found dead after a campaign for nuclear disarmament rally, Inspector Gently must investigate this potentially explosive case. Catch Inspector George Gently tonight at 8 on GBH 44.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Culture Show news desk, I'm Henry Santoro. Fans of author Brad Meltzer will be happy to know that after a 4-year wait, his newest page-turning thriller, The Viper, is out today. It's the third Zig and Nola novel from Meltzer, and it's easily his most personal. How so? Well, you have to read the book to find out. Brad was on Good Morning America with George Stephanopoulos this morning, explaining the plot line of The Viper.
So a man walks into a funeral home carrying his favorite blue suit.
He's got a terminal disease, and this is the suit he wants to be buried in. But here's the thing, George. If you go into your local bank and you open a safety deposit box, paperwork gets filed. Government can find it. Same thing, you go to the UPS store, you open up a P.O. box. But if you secretly sew something into your suit, into the lining, and you hand it to your local mortician, you have the ultimate untraceable hiding spot.
Brad Meltzer will be on my GBH Henry and the Hub segment in the coming weeks, and it pains me to mention that Boston and the world lost an incredible musician shortly after Christmas. Gabe Hirschfeld played banjo and was more than a gifted musician. He was the heart of the Boston bluegrass community. His band, the Lonely Heartstring Band, began with a common love for the music of the Beatles, eventually bringing some of their favorite songs to life with a bluegrass style. The group formed in Boston after 4 of the 5 members met at Berklee College of Music after hearing Gabe play. Berklee visiting artist and advisor Bela Fleck said Gabe was one of the best banjo players he ever heard.
One day you're gonna find me.
Gabe Hirschfeld had health issues and passed unexpectedly on December 28th. He was 36 years old. That's this edition of the GBH Weekly Wednesday Afternoon Culture Cast. I'm Henry Santoro. Next up, The Culture Show with my friend and yours, Jared Bowen, live at the Boston Public Library.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, lights, camera, action, it's the year in movies. Today, we're rolling out the red carpet for Joyce Kulhaywick, fresh from the Boston Society of Film Critics Marathon at the Coolidge Corner Theater. From Ryan Coogler's big, restless Sinners, to the long, deliberate ambition of Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another, to the intimate character study of Blue Moon, Joyce raises the curtain on the films that define 2025 and will be likely Oscar contenders. Then, as Salem approaches its 400th anniversary, the city turns to poetry to widen the story. Salem Poet Laureate J.D. Scrimger joins the Culture Show to talk about Poet in High Street Park, prose and poetry for modern Salem. Work shaped by decades of living, teaching, and paying attention in Salem, a place that extends well beyond its most famous myths. And wooden spheres that could be planets, pods that dangle from the ceiling, vessel-like forms that seem built to cradle something unseen. These are the sculptures made by Allison Crony Moses, one of 4 winners of the ICA's James and Audrey Foster Prize. We'll talk with her about what it takes to carve out an artist's career in Boston. That's all right now on The Culture Show.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, live on 89.7 from the Boston Public Library studio and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. We're starting the show with Screen Time with Joyce Kulhaywick. She's here with all the films to see right now, especially as you prep for this weekend's Golden Globe ceremony and the upcoming Oscar nominations. From the sensation that is Sinners to a showcase for movie star George Clooney and another for movie star still rising Timothée Chalamet. Joyce Kulhaywick is a Culture Show contributor, an Emmy Award-winning arts and entertainment reporter, and president of the Boston Theater Critics Association. You can find her reviews on joyceschoices.com. Welcome back. Happy New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year, Jared. There's so much to talk about today.
Well, this is the most... I guess summer is an exciting time for film, but this is the most exciting because this is when all the really good films come out because this is award season.
Yeah, summer's gotten less exciting because it's all these rehashed, superhero, whatever. But the fall is when all the best movies of the year come out, and they've all come out.
Although I'm about to contradict us both, because the first film we're talking about came out this summer, and this is a film that people are still talking about. You are on the Boston Society Film Critics Board. You just selected this as the entire group, Best Picture.
Best
and we're talking
Picture.
about...
And Best Director for Ryan Coogler.
For Sinners.
Yeah, for Sinners. This is a brilliant film, and it uses a lot of things that Ryan Coogler has done before. He did Creed, he did Black Panther, he did Fruitvale Fruitvale Station. So we're talking about all those themes. This is like myth, this is allegory, this is Black history, this is identity, this is vampires.
I was going to say all of this, but it's a vampire story
Yeah.
that is so riveting and compelling because I think that Coogler has just risen up in all of the films that you just outlined, going all the way back to Fruitvale Station. He just keeps growing and growing and expanding his cinematic storytelling and vocabulary.
Absolutely. That's a great way to put that. I mean, he has integrated all of these things, and he's got a lot on his mind. And it all starts with these two characters, both of them played by Michael B. Jordan, Smoke and Stack. And they decide they want to open a juke joint in Mississippi.
They're twins, we should
They're
mention.
twins, exactly. So that's how they're able to do that. And they hire their cousin, Sammy, who's a prodigy blues guitarist, to play with them. And he does so against the advice of his preacher father, who says, you know, if you play in a joint like that, you'll attract the devil. And that's exactly what happens. So vampires show up, but it's not as silly as it sounds.
But before we get to that, what is really beneath all of this, which again is amazing storytelling, here's a little bit from the trailer to Sinners.
We've been gone a long time. We back now. You twins? Nah, we cousins.
There are legends of people with the gift of making music so true. It can conjure spirits from the past and the future. This gift can bring fame and fortune.
Will somebody take me in your eyes?
But it also can pierce the veil between life and death.
So we were saying it's a vampire film. However, this is also the highest grossing original film in 15 years.
Wow.
Original meaning outside of all the sequels that you were just talking about. And I think that's because of the storytelling that's beneath this the vampire horror veneer.
Well, it's so beautifully done. It's incredibly well acted. It's got an amazing cast. I mean, Delroy Lindo is in this. Haley Steinfeld is in this. You know, Michael B. Jordan is in this. And I'm you know, there's a million other people who are fantastic. But it's really beautifully and brilliantly assembled, and it's about, well, what happens is these vampires show up in 1930s at this 1930s juke joint, and they are meant to evoke, you know, the real life horrors that surrounded the Jim Crow South, radiating back and forth in time across all of the horrors around Black history in these United States. They show up as innocent white traveling musicians who just want to come to jam, but we discover that what they really want is to steal the music and Black souls, and then that's where the allegory takes off, and so it becomes really a fight to the death in a sense, and it's a complex bargain that they want to strike with these musicians. There's a dance sequence here which is so extraordinary. The music is powerful, and it unleashes.
Going to these blues roots, it's fabulous.
Oh my gosh, it unleashes history and time back and forth. Experiences, the conscious, the unconscious, it goes across geography and history, and all of this happens on the dance floor. It's an extraordinary, what's the word? It's a potpourri. It's an amazing amalgam of the Black experience over and through time.
And we should mention that's one you don't even have to leave home for, because right now, because it came out this summer, it's now streaming on HBO Max, which is one place you can see it.
But if you could see it on the big screen, it'd be
definitely
even,
do that. Well, let's move to Marty Supreme. This is a film that is getting lots and lots of attention for Timothée Chalamet, and I would argue, in fact, I was just talking about this earlier today on BPR with Jim and Marjorie, I would argue that this is the film that solidifies who Timothée Chalamet is as an actor. Who is he playing? What is the nature of this film, Marty Supreme?
Okay, so if anybody had said to me that the most exciting action thriller of the season would be about ping pong or table tennis, as it's called in the upper echelons, it would be this film. And Timothée Chalamet is absolutely electrifying in a rather repulsive role. He's playing, it's loosely based on the real-life story of a real table tennis champion, Marty Riesman. And here he's named Marty Mauser. And Josh Safdie directs and co-wrote the script. And from the get-go. The seed is planted from literally the opening scene where Marty Mauser literally impregnates his girlfriend in the back room of a shoe store and then sets off on this high-speed chase to become the greatest table tennis champion in the world. And he never stops till he, well, I won't say. Does he get there?
We won't say, but let's have a little sense of this extraordinary performance. And as you say, he's not the greatest figure. So here's a clip from Marty Supreme starring Timothée Chalamet as Marty, working as a shoe salesman in his own family's shop.
Manager?
Manager.
Come on, Murray.
Whatever you do, just don't tell Lloyd about
Look,
this,
I've been very clear with you, all right? I'm not trying to be disrespectful. You built something very commendable here. And it's been good for my soul. But I don't.
Oh,
did we lose it?
I think we lost our sound there. But basically,
I don't want to.
I'll continue. I'll take it from here. Only I can carry on from Timothée Chalamet.
Going back to my trip. This is over. I'm not coming back here and doing it.
So this is a figure who will stop at nothing to become the table tennis champion, and that includes being at the expense of his mother, the woman who is fathering his child, or the mother of his child. This is the actress who he exploits, played by Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh yeah, she's great
However
in
he
this.
can move forward to get money, to get access, to get fame, to get a platform.
It's pretty extraordinary, and it never stops. It's like it's jet propelled. And Timothée Chalamet is like a live wire. He is electrified. He has extraordinary bravado. He is manically obsessed. And I think all of this turns Gwyneth Paltrow's character on because she's a movie star of yesteryear. So her dream is kind of faded, but she's quite inspired and turned on by this guy who will stop at nothing, including wanting to, jump into bed with her. So this is all very thrilling. What he does in this movie, you just cannot take your eyes off.
You mean in terms of playing? Well,
in terms of his acting.
And playing table tennis. He's extraordinary.
He studied for 6 years, carried table tennis tables around with him while he was on the sets of other movies. He made 2 other major movies, A Complete Unknown and Dune, all the while perfecting his game. It is somewhat CGI enhanced, but that's just sort of in deference to, movie making and long scenes, etc. He's playing at an incredibly athletic, professional level, and it's really, those scenes are show-stopping. So it's thrilling on every level.
And again, we're basically talking about ping pong. Before we leave this quickly, I feel like we also have to give people a warning because this is a style of filmmaking that never lets up. You will be exhausted, or at least I was, after you're finished because of the pace of how this moves along.
Yeah, it's exhausting. You can almost have a heart attack watching it.
Right, let's move on from, as I talked about, Timothée Chalamet has long been, over the past number of years, the movie star rising. And then we move to George Clooney, who is among the elder statesmen of movie stars. And we wonder how much longer we'll actually have them, the way the nature of celebrity is becoming more and more diffuse. But there's this film, J. Kelly, in which George Clooney, it seems, in this screenplay by Noah Baumbach, directed by Noah Baumbach, is considering his own celebrity. Here's a little bit from the film J. Kelly.
Why is there always a slice of cheesecake in every room I'm in?
It's in your rider along with the nuts and the fruit and all the different kinds of water.
How is it in my rider when I don't even like cheesecake?
You once said you liked it.
Never.
You did. You just don't remember.
If anything, my rider should say no cheesecake. Never cheesecake.
So he's being jokey here, but he is this affable movie star. Looking back at his life in much the same way we think that George Clooney is incredibly affable, likable, and who also may be at a point in his life where he's looking back at his career.
Maybe so, but it seems to me that Clooney has somehow managed to figure this out. One always has the sense that Clooney in real life is pretty grounded with the kids and the wife, etc., and he's made his peace with fame and fortune, and I always suspect it's because it came to him a little late, and he had a chance to sort of watch what happened to his aunt, Rosemary Clooney, who was really, rose and fell in the Hollywood system. This guy we meet him in the first scene when he's playing an actor he's dying. And the film sort of rolls back from there. He spends the rest of the film sort of evaluating his own mortality, the choices that he's made, and as he really traded a real life for the conjured artificial life that he's become on screen. If anything, he kind of reminds me of Marcello Mastroianni a little bit in that he's sort of debonair and he's handsome in that easy kind of laid-back back way. But Marcello Mastroianni was almost more comfortable in this situation, whereas Clooney here plays it like a guy whose suit doesn't quite fit in a sense. And it's a little bit more complicated than what they say here about your relationship to your art and whether or not sacrificing all of these things is or is not worth it. I mean, clearly you want no one to desert you, and his daughters desert him, and I've got to mention Adam Sandler, his manager. Sandler is almost better than Clooney in this movie. He is so real. He's so truthful.
Well,
he
this
plays
is what's
his
so
manager.
wonderful about him. Whenever, speaking of Marty Supreme, the same director who did Uncut Gems, in which we also saw Adam Sandler in a very different light, whenever he has the opportunity to get beyond the comedic shtick that he does, he astounds.
He's a tremendous dramatic actor, and I like him better there than I do when he's in these comedic roles. I completely agree with you, and that really shines here because he's the anchor. You've got to see Jay Kelly. It's a wonderful film. I wish the screenplay had been a little bit more detailed and complex. The ending does really land. That last scene is almost earned. I will say it's almost earned. What the film doesn't deal with is what he means to people as a cinematic creation. And when they show all those scenes of his movies at the end, little clips, you realize that's important too. And this screenplay really doesn't go there. It's a little bit pat.
It leads you just to the edge because I spent the entire film thinking, what is George Clooney thinking about all of this? Because it is, I hate the word brave when it comes to actors, but it's interesting that he would choose this role, which is could be so close to who he is. But as I agree with you, I think that George Clooney is a much nicer person.
He's I think he's more grounded. But
grounded,
I mean, who knows? Although, have you
Yeah.
interviewed him?
I've never interviewed. Have you?
Oh yeah, he's hilarious.
Oh yeah.
He's
Just like I just had tea with him as I was coming over here.
Yeah, no, and my phone rang right in the middle of the thing, and he said, "Shall I get that?" And I thought, "Oh my gosh, yeah, No, he's really. I interviewed him when he was here in Boston too. He was in Rockport. He was doing that, Perfect Storm.
Oh right, of course.
Oh, we had done 1,000 interviews. I was the last one to interview him because we let all the international press go first. I walk into the tent. It's raining. It's cold. He's been there for a week. He looks at me, he says, I said, I'm your last interview. He said, let's kick back and tell a few stories. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now there's a gem.
So he is a class act.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's nice to hear. Well, let's stay with the movies, talking about the movies. By the way, if you're just tuning in, I'm speaking with Joyce Kulhaywick, the eminent Joyce Kulhaywick. Also, you can find her reviews on joyceschoices.com.
This is good. I like this. Yeah.
Sentimental Value, which is also about the movies.
Yeah, Sentimental Value is about a director who has lost touch with his family, estranged family, and sort of by way of redemption, he writes a screenplay which is really about his life, in which he wants his actress daughter to play the lead role. And of course, she wants nothing to do with it, and they're all quite angry with him about, what's happened. It's Stellan Skarsgård, who I think is a lead, but he's being nominated and has been winning awards as Best Supporting Actor. This is the film that won the Grand Prix at the Cannes Film Festival, which is the second prize. The Palme d'Or is the first prize.
And has also done well at the upcoming Golden Globe
Absolutely.
nominations.
I mean, it's a fine film. I just feel like it's I don't know. I wasn't as enamored of Stellan Skarsgård's performance here. But what the film is about is very important. It's kind of, what's the word? It kind of just tapers off and drifts away at the end. I will say that the opening scene featuring his daughter, the actress, on stage, having an episode of stage fright like I've never seen before. My heart was in my mouth. That was extraordinary. And then the film kind of lost a little, for me, dramatic momentum from there. But it's smart, it's well acted, it's about something. And Elle Macpherson shows up as a young starlet who he does end up casting in this film that his daughter does not want to play in. So she's pretty good.
Well, again, that was Sentimental Value, which I believe is still in theaters. Of course, everything is available for streaming too. But let's move on to, we know that Hollywood loves to tell stories about its kind, if not itself. And so we move to Blue Moon now, which is Ethan Hawke playing the lyricist Lorenz Hart. Of course, before it was Rodgers and Hammerstein, it was Rodgers and Hart. heart. And this is a really intimate piece. Ethan Hawke is getting a lot of notices for this. Here's a scene from Blue Moon in which his character, again, the lyricist Hart, who is very troubled, we find him at the end of his life, very much conflicted in who he was in terms of identity. He was an alcoholic. Here he reviews his former collaborator Hammerstein's new hit musical, Oklahoma.
What did I think of Oklahoma? I saw the show a couple of times in previews in New Haven back when they were still calling it Away We Go! ! And I felt sure Dick was gonna call me. Larry, we're in big trouble. I need you to funny up the show. We need some big comedy numbers. And I was all ready to say, Dick, instead of all this corn pone Americana, let's do a send-up of corn pone Americana. I was already writing lyrics in my head. I couldn't stop.
And did he call you?
Are you kidding? He was too busy writing more hits. Huh.
Well, while we're name dropping, I recently spent some time with Ethan Hawke for real for the show and for an event at the Coolidge Corner Theater for the Coolidge Awards.
He's lovely.
He is so lovely,
Yeah.
and he told me that this was one of the hardest roles he has ever had, but it shows because he tested himself, and I think this is an extraordinary performance.
For me, this is the performance of the year. And you know I love Timothy Chalamet.
Yes, I do know that.
However, I saw Ethan Hawke here. He occupies center stage, and it is a little bit theatrical. The whole thing is shot in one location, Sardi's Restaurant, where all the stars come in after the show to wait for the reviews to see if their show is a hit or a flop. And this whole movie takes place there. He's in every single scene. And he is, I hate to use this word, riveting, but he compels in every scene, whether he's talking or not talking, and he's going through an extraordinary roller coaster of emotions, because this is the first show that he has not written with Richard Rodgers. And it's the beginning of Rodgers' collaboration with Hammerstein and 5 landmark musicals, Oklahoma being the first. But we don't know that yet, and neither does Lawrence Hart.
But he knows that it's a success,
Yeah.
and it hurts him.
It hurts. He's jealous. He's competitive. He's angry. He's sweet. He's urbane. He's sophisticated. He's talking. He has a big crush on this young protege, played by Margaret Qualley. And I think the scene of the two of them in a little back room or a coat closet at Sardi's, where he doesn't say a word, is a tutorial on acting. She's telling him she doesn't have the same feelings for him, and he is crushed. And so gallant. And so you can see all of this registering, and he doesn't say a word.
Well, I think, like you do, it seems that this is going to come down in the Best Actor Oscar race between Timothy Chalamet and Ethan Hawke, and because of Ethan Hawke's career and for this performance, I hope it's him too.
Well, National Society of Film Critics just voted Ethan Hawke their best actor. I mean, you know, they're a rather sophisticated group, et cetera, et cetera. Who knows what the Oscars will do?
Well, we'll
see.
talk to you about that. We have just run out of time, but so next time we will talk about My Mom Jane, because it's streaming on. We'll tell everybody it's streaming on HBO Max. See it, because the next time you come on, we'll talk about it. And there's so much to talk about. Mariska Hargitay's look at the mother she never knew, Jane Mansfield.
Oh my gosh, love that.
Joyce, always great to see you. Thank you.
Love you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Too. Joyce Kulhawick is a Culture Show contributor and Emmy Award-winning arts critic and entertainment reporter and president of the Boston Theater Critics Association. You can find all her reviews on joyceschoices.com. And again, next time we'll talk about My Mom Jane if you want to watch it beforehand. Coming up, celebrating Salem at 400 with the city's poet laureate, J.D. Scrimger. He's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Arun Roth. Today on GBH's All Things Considered, local agencies working with refugees speak out about the challenges they're facing under the Trump administration. And Venezuelans in our community grapple with what Nicolas Maduro's capture could mean for democracy and socialism. GBH's Tori Bedford joins us with reactions from Venezuela and beyond. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Babson College, where you can advance your career with an MBA or specialized master's at the school ranked #2 best college in the United States by the Wall Street Journal 2025. babson.edu/grad programs. And St. Andrew's School in Barrington, Rhode Island, committed to kindness and belonging with tailored teaching and learning support for middle and high schoolers. Open house January 14th. standrews-ri.org. And Mass Humanities, presenting Voices and Votes, Democracy in America, a Smithsonian exhibition in East Sandwich now through January 30th, in collaboration with Massachusetts 250. masshumanities.org.
National media visits. We live here. GBH News 89.7, gbhnews.org, and streaming on the GBH app. Trusted local news.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, live on 89.7 from our studio at the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. Salem is widely known for the Salem witch trials of 1692, when accusations of witchcraft tore through the town and fear, paranoia, and suspicion nearly destroyed a community. It's also widely known for the Halloween tourism that later grew out of that history. But of course, there is the other Salem, the city of the everyday, the Salem that poet J.D. Scrimger often documents. For nearly 30 years, Scrimger has been writing about daily life in Salem, teaching, raising a family, and all the energy expended on playing fields. He observes and considers the life of the city that doesn't appear on the walking tours. That's why Scrimger, Salem's inaugural poet laureate, is one of the voices helping to mark Salem's 400th year. This Saturday, the historic city kicks off its 400th anniversary celebration with a free community launch party. And as part of that Salem 400 celebrations, J.D. Scrimger appears at the Peabody Essex Museum this Sunday, January 11th, for a Pem Reads event, reading from and discussing his new book, Poet in High Street Park, Prose and Poetry for Modern Salem. J.D. Scrimger, welcome back to The Culture Show. It's great to see you again.
Great to see you, Jared.
I'll invite you to bring your microphone down just a little bit. There you go. So you have had 30 years in Salem, which of course is just a blink, which is interesting, in the 400-year history of the city, but also 30 years is a long time. How do you begin to, as you considered it for your book, mark your time in this very historic place?
Well, it is a long time, and it occurs to me that I have now, this year, just spent more than half my life in Salem. I think it's interesting that you mentioned raising a family, because I probably would mark my time in large part by the path that my family took, in the sense of having my children go through the high schools, the Salem public schools, having my wife work in the Salem public schools. So there was a time when I was very involved in that community. There was a time when I was very involved coaching my sons in Little League. And now, in the last decade or so, I've been perhaps even more involved in the writing community. Once I helped bring the Mass Poetry Festival to Salem, and I host the Salem Writers Group. And so I've been able to kind of dedicate myself more to the writing community in the last decade or so.
Well, I'm also struck in going through your book, which is a combination of stories and essays and poetry, that while one might go about their town, and actually I was going to say run around their town, because we know as a parent that's what you're doing so much of the time, but to take note of the fact that you have stopped and observed and digested and processed your town in all of its facets. You've made a point of doing that.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that happened, but I do feel like it needs to be documented. And it's interesting, there's an early poem in the book called Montage of Brick and Water, which is a series of very short poems about Salem. And those were written in between taking my kids places, teaching my classes, and they were just little scratches I'd made in my notebook. And then I was asked by a colleague of mine, Nancy Schultz, to write a poem for a collection of essays that she was putting together about Salem. And she gave me a month. And at first I had these grand ideas of trying to encapsulate all of Salem's history, and I realized there's no way that's going to happen. And so instead I started to go through my notebooks and find all these scraps and arrange them in something. So we created a kind of collage of what was contemporary Salem back in the early 2000s.
Well, I'll ask one more question about the historic Salem, because you have a poem in which, I think it's a poem, I hope I'm not completing with one of your essays, but you're talking about your own yard and the fragments of history that surface in the soil. And we know that there are other places in Massachusetts, Concord, for example, where that can happen. But it's very poignant because that, of course, can't happen everywhere. But it's literally buried around everyone.
Right. I think that might make an appearance in a poem and an essay. I have an essay about the Salem fire, which is, I think, a huge event in Salem that happened in 1914 that destroyed a third of the buildings in the city and made many, over 15,000 people homeless. And yet, almost like the everyday life in Salem, it's something that, because Salem has so much history, people don't talk about. I mention this partly because one of the things that I feel like we find when I dig up my backyard are even just charred embers from when the fire swept through.
I didn't know anything about that fire, I have to say, and it was so fascinating to read your essay and have all of the echoes of what we just saw in Los Angeles last year, and understand that this does happen and how communities go through it, and also how they come out of it as well. Before we continue, you've offered to read a couple of poems today. What's your first one?
Well, let's go to the everyday. This is a poem called Laid Off Elementary School Librarian. When the new principal, under the direction of the educational consulting company, asked you to train your minimum wage replacement, and the local papers praise all these reforms, and even your friends move to the suburbs and believe the brown skin of the children you teach must be avoided. When your Saturdays buying used books for those children, in the darkening afternoons putting those books away so they can check them out again, seem a lost, wasted life. Remember your walk to and from school, through the downtown that's still your downtown, and the way your students wrap their arms around your leg when they see you on the street, and how the older ones from years before, even sometimes the boys, hug you in Market Basket or at the Halloween parade and pronounce your name wrong like they used to. Ms. Gerald, Ms. Gerald. And then tell you what books they've been reading.
That is J.D. Scrimger reading from among the poetry collected in his new book, Poet in High Street Park, Prose and Poetry from Modern Salem. Well, that is so much an example of modern Salem. You're an educator, your family is all about education, and this is, of course, where you see cultures intersect and the effects of modernity. How did you arrive at this piece?
Well, there's no way to avoid it. It's pretty personal. It's based on an experience that happened to my wife. I think in a larger sense, it's also about a feeling that if you're from a city that is not what it once was, you might become more aware of powers imposing themselves on you. And so even in this poem, there's this outside educational consulting company that's that's saying you don't need to pay for librarians, and so I guess that would even be a theme of this book, is how if you aren't a place of power, how do you find a way to go on in a satisfying way?
You spent a lot of time talking about the students of Salem, because of course you teach at Salem State University. And it's really striking to me as the reader of your book how much those stories of your students, who they are, what their desires are, what their struggles are, has become ingrained in you.
Yeah. That's, when I first moved to Salem, one of the main features of the Salem landscape was, I'm actually going to tie this into the students, I promise. One of the features of the Salem landscape, though, were these huge towers from the coal-burning power plant. And that plant has since been taken down, which is wonderful. But when I moved there, I developed asthma my first year, and I kind of ascribed it to that plant. And so in the book, I attached that to the experiences of the students, who were mostly working class students, were working jobs, often had children when they were trying to get through school, and so their lives, in a sense, the environment that they were growing up in was, you could say, unhealthy, difficult in a way, and I actually write about a time my first year when I start getting some phone calls that are late in the evening that are harassing, and it struck me that, in a sense, I was attached to some of the crap that they had to go through, and there was sort of no way to be completely apart from that. So.
And has it changed you talk about how the city isn't maybe what it used to be, but how have you evolved over your years as an educator and seeing what your students are going through?
I think if any educator who's been around for a long time becomes a better and better listener, I hope they do. I'm more interested in hearing student stories than I am in sharing my own in the classroom. In terms of, I think Salem has changed too, and that's been one of the tricky things about this book, is thinking if I'm able to trace that change. It's an idiosyncratic JD's take on Salem, but I think Salem has really gone more whole hog into the tourism industry. And also, my neighbor has a bumper sticker that says "Keep Salem Odd," and then I think also there's a growing Dominican population, which is also redefining Salem in wonderful ways. And in terms of the book, we see that in some of the short stories at the end of the book, where I write in large part about youth sports, which I apologize for the folks who aren't interested in baseball, but I felt like it was a place where I would say the white working class and the Dominican population interacted and couldn't avoid each other, and had to figure out who each other was.
And why I was, again, with the apologies for people who might not like sports, but this is why it's important, because that was going to be my next question, to ask you why those fields become that fertile ground for togetherness.
Well, it's not at all the same thing, but I think you know how you hear how people who are in the army and serve in a war sort of become a band of brothers. I think wanting to win the Little League championship makes people not think so much about differences, and so that's one way that it's important. But also just, my wife could practice her attempts at Spanish with the parents of my son's teammates in the bleachers, and so. it just gave opportunities for moments of conversation.
Speaking of opportunity, we have time for one more poem that you have brought to read to us today. And what is this? And there's a significance to this one.
Oh, sure, yeah. So this is a poem that is actually not in the book, but which I read just the other day at the inauguration ceremonies for the mayor and city council in Salem. And it refers to Mary Esty, who is actually an ancestor in my direct line, who was also put to death for being accused of being a witch. It has a line from Mary Esty in the poem itself. She wrote a famous petition a few days before her death to the authorities, which people believe probably helped bring about an end to the witch trials. So I'm honored to have her in my direct line. So this poem is called Evening Walk, Late December, and it's dedicated to the city of Salem on its 400th anniversary. On a rugged granite bench that holds a tired flower, the letters of Mary Esty's name glow white, with snow smoothed by wind into the engraving. A couple speaks Mandarin, then listens to an audio tour, to voices unattached to bodies, telling stories this city will forever be known for. Beyond the wall, the locked old burial point, sinners and saints sharing the same ground. In the empty spirit market, a bored attendant shivers. Across the alley, the nightmare gallery. This Christmas, my son gave me a balaclava to wear as I bike the stinging winter streets. I worry I'll be mistaken for a masked agent the White House sends to terrorize our neighborhoods. Let no more innocent blood be shed, Mary wrote in her final days. A plea for reason that came from knowledge of her own soul. And it stopped. It did stop. On the damp brick, rock salt galaxies. From the lobster shanty, someone singing, "Take a chance on me." While up icy Liberty Street, a tour guide leads his intrepid band. He sees me walking solitary and says over the clank of the bank's flagpole, "Stay warm, my friend."
J.D. Scrimgeour, it is a pleasure to have you back on the show. Thank you for leaving us with that poetry in particular on this day. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It's been great to be here.
J.D. Scrimgeour is Salem's inaugural Poet Laureate. This Saturday, Salem kicks off its 400th anniversary celebration with a free community launch party at Salem High School. And as part of official Salem 400-plus celebrations, J.D. appears at the Peabody Essex Museum this Sunday, January 11th, for a PEM Reads event, reading from and discussing his new book, Poet in High Street Park, Prose and Poetry for Modern Salem. Well, coming up, Allison Croney-Moses, winner of the ICA's Foster Prize on turning themes of motherhood, identity, and community into art. She's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
If you're old enough, you'll remember the video rental shop. They were everywhere. In France, a handful of them are still open, VHS tapes included, and they're offering more than just nostalgia.
It's like a library, and it's very exciting to come in and try to make a decision. And so much more curated than Netflix.
Hear that story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3,
here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Boston Ski and Tennis, helping families stay active and outdoors this winter, offering a range of winter sport products and services with locations in Newton and Westboro or online at bostonskiandtennis.com.
And the Cape Cod Foundation, committed to building resources to support community life on Cape Cod, including environmental conservation, arts and culture, and community development. Learn more at capecodfoundation.org.
And Bunker Hill Community College, registering for online winter session, a 3-week session starting January 5th, designed to help students catch up on classes and get ahead. bhcc.edu/winter.
From your neighborhood to your newsfeed, GBH News is your trusted source for the news that matters to you. Find us wherever you are at GBH News and always at GBH 89.7. GBH News, what matters to you.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, live on 89.7 from the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. Allison Crony Moses is a Boston-based sculptor who creates smooth, curved forms. Using thin, laminated layers of wood, she crafts spheres and pod-like vessels. Sometimes clustered together or hanging in the air, they resemble seeds and shells, and some take their cues from the womb. Through these shapes, she is exploring motherhood, family, and what it means to hold, protect, and to support another person. Her work has been steadily recognized in recent years with honors including a National USA Fellowship in Craft and the Rappaport Prize given by the Discordiver Sculpture Park and Museum. And most recently, she was named a winner of the James and Audrey Foster Prize at the ICA. She's one of 4 artists in this year's Foster Prize exhibition at the museum, which is on view through January 19th. Allison Crony Moses, welcome to The Culture Show. It's great to see you as always.
It's great to see you.
Well, tell me about what we can find in this Foster Prize show, which is a span of work, as I've seen.
Yeah, so when you walk through the Foster Prize, you come in and I have a new series of wall panels, which a lot of people are not familiar with the wall panels that I do. But you see these walnut wood wall panels with color kind of swooping from the inside out and kind of curling around. And then as you step through, there are suspended shells on your right, kind of in the corner as I would say, kind of a family unit in the corner. And then there's 2 other pieces that are in conversation with each other in another corner. And the exhibition, when I kind of thought through it, and thinking it as an expansion of my work that I had already done, which you've seen, I was really drawn to these ideas of connection in relationship to each other, humans in relation through conversation, lineage, through family connection, through past, present, future, and even, relationships between friends. So the wall panels a lot are kind of investigating those relationships, really drawn from personal experiences and connections, but universal themes that I hope people are drawn to and feel connected to in the ways that I do in my studio.
Well, and everything that you just talked about is living, relationships and connectedness. It's all living. Wood, before you come at it, is living, and I've always been struck by what you do and the material with which you do it, which is wood. How does that fuel your process?
Yeah, so people are surprised. I consider myself as like that art kid back in the studio, doing painting, drawing, charcoal, pastels, and I had connection to wood in my life, but when I went to Rhode Island School of Design, I ended up switching from graphic design to furniture design, and really it was that connection that I had as a child with my dad doing some woodworking, but also being like, oh, I can get into the making of these objects. Not just the creation of art, but the focus on process and material. So that's where it started, and that program really, I think, gave me a foundation in woodworking, and I started to learn that even though a tree is cut down, it is actually living, or it's mimicking life, I should say, where you might take it from one home to the ICA, and the wood is going to expand or contract based on climate, based on moisture content. Every time it comes into my studio, I have to help it acclimate, right? You mill a little bit off every few days until it acclimates to the space. And then even when I create these pieces, they they have a life of their own. So the laminations, you know, I want everything to be perfect as always. That's how my brain works. But not every lamination is perfect. There may be some imperfections in there that you'll see over time. And I think that that is part of, just like humans, part of the final product, where there's imperfections, or shall I say, the perfection of how we are in those pieces, and they will change over time and adjust to their climate and atmosphere, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. I also wonder about, and I've had the pleasure of spending some time in your studio with you for a piece we did for Open Studio. How physically rigorous is it to be working with wood?
Yeah, it's physically rigorous, the short answer. So I've been fortunate enough through the support of my art practice through these prizes and the sales of my work to be able to have a studio assistant. So I'd say it is physically demanding at times, and it's not always consistently that way. And so I now have a studio assistant 3 days a week, because I'm a 5'1" person that can't lift everything and can't, you know, move everything around the way that I would want. And so I have someone to assist me in getting, for example, I go to the lumber yard, fill up my vehicle with lumber, bring it back, and I have someone to help me with all of that. The machines are large, you know, like it is a physical labor, always, which is something that I've enjoyed. When I was at RISD learning the process of woodworking and working at, for example, at Anderson Ranch, the craft school, where I've really been able to get comfortable with machines and producing at a larger scale. And one of the things that I have been thinking about the past 2 years is how do I expand and grow? And one of those things is scale. And one of those things is trying new materials, or not new materials, but also new processes. And so the wall panels themselves that are much larger than some of the shells that I make, they require significant kind of, I'm gonna say muscle, in the bending process of those pieces. And that's when, in those moments where I'm in the studio for, you know, maybe it's a 6-hour stretch where I have, you know, there's a bending iron that's used for guitars, and it heats up, and I'm bending this large piece of wood over it, spraying it with water.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing.
Oh, well, I would imagine, because I love to talk about process. I love to think about process, and I love the physicality of things, and that must be so much of it. First of all, the satisfaction, but also the respect you have to have for the material, because you're essentially working together.
Yes, I talk about that a lot in my work, where it is a true collaboration, especially with bending. I think making square pieces that fit together and have that kind of pop sound when the joints go together. I also enjoy that process. I'm not drawn to it as much, but those pieces or sculptures or furniture, I feel like often we are imposing a design on the material, and we're working within the parameters that wood allows. And in bending, I do think of it as very much a collaboration, where if I push the fibers too much, they start to splinter. I've tried out a few different glues for laminating these very thin layers of veneer, which they're not meant to have five layers of veneer and suspended from the ceiling. And so I've tried out different glues, and one of them recently, all my laminations shattered as I put it over the joiner, and I was like, okay, well, that's not working. You know, I have to listen. I have to not force it, because then I would have something that wouldn't have the integrity that I want. But I think about that often. I think it's an interesting, they say that you can feel kind of a finer dimension, I'll say, or measurement with your fingertips than your eye. And I think about that in woodworking. If you really open all of your senses, including the sound of the fibers of the wood, then you really are in collaboration with that material.
It's incredible. I'm speaking with the artist Allison Croney Moses, who is one of the recipients of this year's ICA Foster Prize. You can see her work on view through much of January. Motherhood is such a theme of your work. How did that change your work? Because, of course, you weren't always a mother.
I was not always a mother. Hard to believe. So back in school, I'll say I think a few things happened for my practice that kind of shifted it. In school, I started making these suspended shells. It was the first experimentation with it. I really loved bent lamination and coopering, the two kind of major processes that I use a lot. And I made work, and I have always been engaged in community through education, alternative education kind of environments, I think of it. And I remember grappling with this opportunity to have a residency or to accept this job at the MCA Denver when I was in Colorado. And I was like, I have some stuff to make, but I don't know if I have some stuff to say. But I do want to be rooted in community and have impact on my community. And the thing that I've always been drawn to is working with youth and recognizing that art has played such a vital role in my young life as a youth making and wanting to help provide that for other people. So I went through that avenue. I was like, okay, I'm going to do arts education. I'm going to give up this residency. And I went through this process where I was focused on creating opportunities for other people. And after I had my first child, 2016, my husband and I, we had talked about it and said, it's really important that I get back in the studio. And so I was working at the Elliott School at the time, Elliott School of Fine and Applied Arts. And so I'd go in the evenings and work and create a piece, just one piece, every couple of years, maybe once a year. And it was a slow process of starting to get back to it. Like I had been making work, but with large gaps. And I think first that moment of getting back in the studio was me connecting or creating more space for my identity as a person, not just the mother that this baby is dependent on. And then I started to see myself reflected in my children's eyes when I'd come home from the studio and they'd say, my mom's an artist. And I remember being stopped, being like, oh yeah, I am. And then the process of in prep to having them, realizing how our society really, truly does not support women, birthing folks in this process of creating the new generations. It's a terrifying process personally. You're going through this, you don't know if you're gonna live and die. The medical system is not set up for it, and doing this in a Black body, our medical system actually does more of a disservice to Black birthing folks. And so I not only wanted to kind of connect back to who I am as a maker and an artist, but also I was like, this isn't right. Like I shouldn't be feeling like I'm risking death every moment I go into the hospital. I had postpartum preeclampsia. My kids had all kinds of things that is not even the worst thing that folks can go through, but you recognize that we as a society don't talk about it. And if we talked about it, we could build community and folks wouldn't feel alone in it. And then they could process it, we can make changes. And so me coming back to my art practice and embracing it more fully is really kind of recognizing that I want to be able to say these things that I was feeling, call other folks into that space to build community around it so that we all don't feel alone and we can shift things.
Which I can't tell you, I'm just sharing with our audience, the feeling you get, your power emanating from these works is extraordinary, as you've just described. Thank you so much for being here. Great to see you as always, and congratulations on the awards and the show.
Thank you. Please come.
Sculptor Allison Crony Moses is one of the recipients of the 2025 James and Audrey Foster Prize at the ICA. You can see her exhibition on view through January 19th. I'm Jared Bowen. Thanks to everyone who came down here to the library today. We love seeing you all. Have a great day.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
GBH's all